throws me the keys to the R8. Don't bend it, he adds in all seriousness, or I will be fucking pissed.
Dude.
My mouth goes dry.
That's at least a 4
He's letting me drive his car? My inner goddess whips on her leather driving gloves and flat shoes. Oh yes, she cries. Are you sure? I mouth, stunned. Yes, before I change my mind. I don't think I have ever grinned so hard. He rolls his eyes and opens the driver's door so that I can climb in. I start the engine before he's even reached the passenger side, and he jumps in quickly. Eager, Mrs. Gray? He asks with a wry smile. Very. Slowly, I ease the car backward and turn it in the driveway. I manage not to stall it, surprising myself. Boy, is the clutch sensitive. Carefully navigating the driveway, I glance in my rearview mirror and see Sawyer and Ryan climb into the Audi SUV. I had no idea our security had followed us here. I pause before I set out onto the main road. You're sure about this? Yes, Christian says tightly, telling me he's not sure about this at all. Oh, my poor 50. I want to laugh at both him and myself because I'm nervous and excited. A small part of me wants to lose Sawyer and Ryan just for the kicks. I check for traffic, then inch the R8 out onto the road. Christian curls up with tension and I can't resist. The road is clear. I put my foot down on the gas and we shoot forward. Whoa, Anna! Christian shouts. Slow down. You'll kill us both. I immediately ease off the gas. Wow, can this car move? Sorry, I mutter, trying to sound contrite and failing miserably. Christian smirks at me to hide his relief, I think. Well, that counts as misbehaving, he says casually, and I slow right down. I glance in the rearview mirror. No sign of the Audi. Car with tinted windows behind us. I imagine Sawyer and Ryan flustered, frantic to catch up. And for some reason, this gives me a thrill. But not wanting to give my dear husband a coronary, I decide to behave and drive steadily, with growing confidence toward the 520. Suddenly, Christian swears and struggles to pull his BlackBerry from the pocket of his jeans. What? He snaps angrily at whoever it is on the other end of the line. No, he says and glances behind us. Yes, she is. I briefly check the rearview mirror, but I don't see anything odd, just a few cars behind us. The SUV is about 4 cars back, and we're all cruising at an even pace. I see. Christian sighs long and hard and rubs his forehead with his fingers. Tension radiates off him. Something's wrong. Yes. I don't know. He glances at me and lowers the phone from his ear. We're fine. Keep going, he says calmly, smiling at me, but the smile doesn't touch his eyes. Shit. Adrenaline spikes through my system. He picks up the phone again. Okay on the 520, as soon as we hit it. Yes, I will. He slots the phone into the speaker cradle, putting it on hands-free. What's wrong, Christian? Just look where you're going, baby, he says softly. I'm heading for the on-ramp of the 520 in the direction of Seattle. When I glance at Christian, he's staring straight ahead. I don't want you to panic, he says calmly. But as soon as we're on the 520 proper, I want you to step on the gas. We're being followed. Followed? Holy shit! My heart lurches into my mouth, pounding. My scalp prickles and my throat constricts with panic. Followed by whom? My eyes dart to the rearview mirror and, sure enough, the dark car I saw earlier is still behind us. Fuck, is that it? I squint through the tinted windshield to see who's driving, but I see nothing. Keep your eyes on the road, baby, Christian says gently, not in the truculent tone he normally uses where my driving is concerned. Get a grip. I mentally slap myself to subdue the dread that's threatening to swamp me. Suppose whoever's following us is armed. armed and after Christian. Shit. I'm hit by a wave of nausea. How do you know we're being followed? My voice is a breathy, squeaky whisper. The Dodge behind us has false license plates. How does he know that? I signal as we approach the 520 from the on-ramp. It's late afternoon, and although the rain has stopped, the roadway is wet. Fortunately, the traffic is reasonably light. Ray's voice echoes in my head from one of his many self-defense lectures. It's the panic that's gonna kill you or get you seriously hurt, Annie. I take a deep breath, trying to bring my breathing under control. Whoever is following us is after Christian. As I take another deep, steadying breath, my mind begins to clear and my stomach settles. I have to keep Christian safe. I wanted to drive this car, and I wanted to drive it fast. Well, here's my chance. I grip the steering wheel and take a final glance in my rearview mirror. The Dodge is closing on us. I slow right down, ignoring Christian's sudden panicked glance at me, and tie my entrance onto the 520 so that the Dodge has to slow and stop to wait for a gap in the traffic. I drop a gear and floor it. The R8 shoots forward, slamming us both into the backs of our seats. The speedometer whips up to 75 miles per hour. Steady, baby, Christian says calmly, though I'm sure he's anything but calm. I weave between the two lanes of traffic, like a black piece in a game of checkers, effectively jumping the cars and trucks. We're so close to the lake on this bridge, it's as if we're driving on the water. I studiously ignore the angry, disapproving looks from other drivers. Christian clutches his hands together in his lap, keeping as still as possible. And in spite of my fevered thoughts, I wonder vaguely if he's doing it so he doesn't distract me. Good girl, he breathes in encouragement. He glances behind him. I can't see the Dodge. We're right behind the unsub, Mr. Gray. Sawyer's voice comes through the hands-free. He's trying to catch up with you, sir. We're going to try and come alongside, put ourselves between your car and the Dodge. Unsub? What does that mean? Good. Mrs. Gray is doing well. At this rate, provided the traffic remains light, and from what I can see it is, we'll be off the bridge in a few minutes. Sir. We flash past the bridge control tower, and I know we're halfway across Lake Washington. When I check my speed, I'm still doing 75. You're doing really well, Anna. Christian murmurs again as he gazes out the back of the R8. For a fleeting moment, his tone reminds me of our first encounter in his playroom, when he patiently encouraged me through our first scene. The thought is distracting, and I dismiss it immediately. Where am I headed? I ask, moderately calmer. I have the feel of the car now. It's a joy to drive, so quiet and easy to handle. It's hard to believe how fast we are going. Driving at this speed in this car is easy. Mrs. Gray, head for I-5 and then south. We want to see if the Dodge follows you all the way. Sawyer says over the hands-free. The traffic lights on the bridge are green, thank heavens, and I race onward. I glance nervously at Christian and he smiles reassuringly. Then his face falls. Shit, he swears softly. There is a line of traffic ahead as we come off the bridge, and I have to slow down, glancing anxiously in the mirror once more. I think I spot the Dodge. 10 or so cars back? Yeah, I see it, Christian says, peering through the narrow rear window. I wonder who the fuck it is. Me too. Do we know if it's a man driving? I blurt out toward the cradled BlackBerry. No, Mrs. Gray. Could be a man or a woman. The tent is too dark. A woman? Christian says. I shrug. You're Mrs. Robinson? I suggest, not taking my eyes off the road. Christian stiffens and lifts the BlackBerry out of its cradle. She's not. He growls. I haven't spoken to her since my birthday, and Elena wouldn't do this. It's not her style. Layla? She's in Connecticut with her parents. I told you. Are you sure? He pauses. No, but if she'd absconded, I'm sure her folks would have let Flynn know. Let's discuss this when we're home. Concentrate on what you're doing. But it might just be some random car. I'm not taking any risks. Not where you're concerned. He snaps. He replaces the BlackBerry in its cradle so we're back in contact with our security team. Oh, shit. I don't want to rattle Christian right now. Later, maybe. I hold my tongue. Fortunately, the traffic is thinning a little. I am able to speed over the and toward the I-5, weaving through the cars again. What if we get stopped by the cops? I ask. That would be a good thing. Not for my license. Don't worry about that, he says. Unexpectedly, I hear humor in his voice. I put my foot down again and hit 75. Boy, this car can move. I love it. So easy. I touch 85. I don't think I have ever driven this fast. I was lucky if my Beetle ever hit 50 miles an hour. He's cleared the traffic and picked up speed. Sawyer's disembodied voice is calm and informative. He's doing 90. Shit! Faster! I press down on the gas and the car purrs to 95 miles per hour as we approach the I-5 intersection. Keep it up, Anna, Christian murmurs. I slow momentarily as we glide onto I-5. The interstate is fairly quiet, and I'm able to cross straight over to the fast lane in a split second. As I put my foot down, the glorious R8 zooms forward, and we tear down the left lane, lesser mortals pulling over to let us pass. If I wasn't so frightened, I might really enjoy this. He's hit 100 miles per hour, sir. Stay with him, Luke, Christian barks at Sawyer. Luke? A truck lurches into the fast lane. Shit! And I have to slam on the brakes. Fucking idiot! Christian curses the driver as we lurch forward in our seats. I am grateful for our seatbelts. Go around him, baby, Christian says through clenched teeth. I check my mirrors and cut right across 3 lanes. We speed past the slower vehicles and then back to the fast lane. Nice move, Mrs. Gray, Christian murmurs appreciatively. Where are the cops when you need them? I don't want a ticket, Christian, I mutter, concentrating on the highway ahead. Have you had a speeding ticket driving this? No. But glancing quickly at him, I can see his smirk. Have you been stopped? Yes. Oh. Charm. It all comes down to charm. Now concentrate. Where's the Dodge, Sawyer? He's just hit 110, sir, Sawyer says. Holy fuck. My heart leaps once more into my mouth. Can I drive any faster? I push my foot down once more and streak past the traffic. Flash the headlights, Christian orders when a Ford Mustang won't move. But that would make me an asshole. So be an asshole, he snaps. Jeez, okay. Where are the headlights? The indicator. Pull it toward you. I do it, and the Mustang moves aside, though not before the driver waves his finger at me in a none too complimentary manner. I zoom past him. He's the asshole, Christian says under his breath, then barks at me. Get off on Stewart. Yes, sir. We're taking the Stewart Street exit, Christian says to Sawyer. Head straight to Escala, sir. I slow, check my mirrors, signal, then move with surprising ease across 4 lanes of the highway and down the off-ramp. Merging onto Stewart Street, we head south. The street is quiet, with few vehicles. Where is everyone? We've been damned lucky with traffic, but that means the Dodge has too. Don't slow down, Anna. Get us home. I can't remember the way, I mutter, panicked by the fact that the Dodge is still on our tail. Head south on Stewart. Keep going until I tell you when. Christian sounds anxious again. I zoom past 3 blocks, but the lights change to yellow on Yale Avenue. Run them, Anna! Christian shouts. I jump so hard I floor the gas pedal, throwing us both back in our seats, speeding through the now red light. He's taking Stewart, Sawyer says. Stay with him, Luke. Luke? That's his name. A quick glance, and I can see Christian glaring at me as if I'm crazy. Eyes on the road, he snaps. I ignore his tone. Luke Sawyer. Yes! He sounds exasperated. Ah, how did I not know this? The man has been following me to work for the last 6 weeks, and I didn't even know his first name. That's me, ma'am, Sawyer says, startling me, though he's speaking in the calm, monotone voice he always uses. The unsub is heading down Stewart, sir. He's really picking up speed. Go, Anna. Less of the fucking chit-chat, Christian growls. We're stopped at the first light on Stewart, Sawyer informs us. Anna, quick, in here, Christian shouts, pointing to a parking lot on the south side of Boren Avenue. I turn, the tires screeching in protest as I swerve into the crowded lot. Drive around, quick, Christian orders. I drive as fast as I can to the back, out of sight of the street. In there, Christian points to a space. Shit, he wants me to park it. Crap! Just fucking do it, he says. So I do. Perfectly. Probably the only time I have ever parked perfectly. We're hidden in the parking lot between Stewart and Boren, Christian says into the BlackBerry. Okay, sir. Sawyer sounds irritated. Stay where you are. We'll follow the unsub. Christian turns to me, his eyes searching my face. You okay? Sure, I whisper. Christian smirks. Whoever's driving that Dodge can't hear us, you know. And I laugh. We're passing Stewart and Boren now, sir. I see the lot. He's gone straight past you, sir. Both of us sag simultaneously with relief. Well done, Mrs. Gray. Good driving. Christian gently strokes my face with his fingertips, and I jump at the contact, inhaling deeply. I had no idea I was holding my breath. Does this mean you'll stop complaining about my driving? I ask. He laughs, a loud, cathartic laugh. I wouldn't go so far as to say that. Thank you for letting me drive your car, under such exciting circumstances, too. I tried desperately to keep my voice light. Maybe I should drive now. To be honest, I don't think I can climb out right now to let you sit here. My legs feel like jello. Suddenly, I'm shuddering and shaking. It's the adrenaline, baby, he says. You did amazingly well, as usual. You blow me away, Anna. You never let me down. He touches my cheek tenderly with the back of his hand, his face full of love, fear, regret, so many emotions at once, and his words are my undoing. Overwhelmed, a strangled sob escapes from my constricted throat, and I start to cry. No, baby, no. Please don't cry. He reaches over and, despite the limited space we have, pulls me over the handbrake console to cradle me in his lap. Smoothing my face, he kisses my eyes, then my cheeks, and I curl my arms around him and sob quietly into his neck. He buries his nose in my hair and wraps me in his arms, holding me tight, and we sit, neither of us saying anything, just holding each other. Sawyer's voice startles us. The unsub has slowed outside Escala. He's casing the joint. Follow him, Christian snaps. I wipe my nose on the back of my hand and take a deep, steadying breath. Use my shirt. Christian kisses my temple. Sorry, I mutter, embarrassed by my crying. What for? Don't be. I wipe my nose again. He tips my chin up and plants a gentle kiss on my lips. Your lips are so soft when you cry, my beautiful, brave girl, he whispers. Kiss me again. Christian stills, one hand on my back, the other on my behind. Kiss me. I breathe, and I watch his lips part as he inhales sharply. Leaning across me, he takes a BlackBerry out of its cradle and tosses it onto the driver's seat beside my sandaled feet. Then his mouth is on me as he moves his right hand into my hair, holding me in place, and lifts his left to cradle my face. His tongue invades my mouth, and I welcome it. Adrenaline turns to lust and streaks through my body. I clasp his face, running my fingers over his sideburns, relishing the taste of him. He groans at my fevered response, low and deep in his throat, and my belly tightens swift and hard with carnal desire. His hand moves down my body, brushing my breast, my waist, and down to my backside. I shift fractionally. Ah, he says, and breaks away from me, breathless. What? I mutter against his lips. Anna, a lot in Seattle. So? Well, right now I want to fuck you and you're shifting around on me. It's uncomfortable. My craving spirals out of control at his words, tightening all my muscles below my waist once more. Fuck me then. I kiss the corner of his mouth. I want him now. That car chase was exciting. Too exciting. Terrifying. And the fear has jump-started my libido. He leans back to gaze at me, his eyes dark and hooded. Fear? His voice is husky. My mouth goes dry. How can he turn me on with one word? Yes, I want you. Now. He tilts his head to one side and stares at me for a few moments. Mrs. Gray, how very brazen, he whispers, after what feels like an eternity. His hand tightens around my hair at my nape, holding me firmly in place, and his mouth is on mine again, more forcefully this time. His other hand skims down my body, down over my behind and lower still to my mid-thigh. My fingers curl into his overlong hair. I'm so glad you're wearing a skirt, he murmurs as he slips his hand beneath my blue and white patterned skirt to caress my thigh. I squeeze more on his lap and the air hisses between his teeth. Keep still, he growls. He cups my sex with his hand, and I still immediately. His thumb brushes over my clitoris, and my breath catches in my throat as pleasure jolts like electricity, deep, deep, deep inside me. Still, he whispers. He kisses me as his thumb circles gently around me through the sheer fine lace of my designer underwear. Slowly, he eases 2 fingers past my panties and inside me. I groan and flex my hips toward his hand. Please, I whisper. Oh, you're so ready, he says, sliding his fingers in and out, torturously slowly. Do car chases turn you on? You turn me on. He smiles a wolfish grin and withdraws his fingers suddenly, leaving me wanting. He scoops his arm under my knees and, taking me by surprise, he lifts me and swings me around to face the windshield. Place your legs on either side of mine, he orders, putting his legs together in the middle of the footwell. I do as I'm told, placing my feet on the floor on either side of his. He runs his hands down my thighs, then back, pulling up my skirt. Hands on my knees, baby. Lean forward. Lift that glorious ass in the air. Mind your head. Shit, we are really going to do this in a public parking lot. I quickly scan the area in front of us and see no one, but feel a thrill coursing through me. I'm in a public lot. This is so hot. Christian shifts beneath me, and I hear the telltale sound of his zipper. Putting one arm around my waist and with his other hand tugging my lacy panties sideways, he impales me in one swift move. Ah! I cry out, grinding down on him, and his breath hisses through his teeth. His arm snakes around me up to my neck and he grasps me under my chin. His hand spreads across my neck, pulling me back and tilting my head to one side so he can kiss my throat. His other hand grips my hip and together we start to move. I push up with my feet, and he tilts himself into me, in and out. The sensation is... I groan loudly. It's so deep this way. My left hand curls around the handbrake, my right hand braced against the door. His teeth graze my earlobe and he tugs. It's almost painful. He bucks again and again into me. I rise and fall, and as we establish a rhythm, he moves his hand around beneath my skirt to the apex of my thighs, and his fingers gently tease my clitoris through the sheer finery of my panties. Ah! Be quick. He breathes into my ear through gritted teeth. His hand still curled around my neck beneath my chin. We need to do this quick, Anna. And he increases the pressure of his fingers against my sex. Ah! I feel the familiar build of pleasure, bunching deep and thick inside me. Come on, baby, he rasps at my ear. I want to hear you. I moan again, and I am all sensation, my eyes tightly closed, his voice in my ear, his breath on my neck, pleasure radiating out from where his fingers tease my body and where he slams deep inside me, and I am lost. My body takes control, craving release. Yes, Christian hisses in my ear, and I open my eyes briefly, staring wildly at the cloth roof of the R8, and I scrunch them closed again as I come around him. Oh, Anna, he murmurs in wonder, and he wraps his arms around me and rams into me one last time and stills as he climaxes deep inside. He runs his nose along my jaw and softly kisses my throat, my cheek, my temple, as I lie on him, my head lolling against his neck. Tension relieved, Mrs. Gray. Christian closes his teeth around my earlobe again and tugs. My body is drained, totally exhausted, and I mule. I feel his smile against me. Certainly helped with mine, he adds, shifting me off him. Lost your voice? Yes, I murmur. Aren't you the wanton creature? I had no idea you were an exhibitionist. I sit up immediately, alarmed. He tenses. No one's watching, are they? I glance anxiously around the car lot. Do you think I'd let anyone watch my wife come? He strokes his hand down my back reassuringly, but the tone of his voice sends shivers down my spine. I turn to gaze at him and grin impishly. Car sex! I exclaim. He grins and tucks a strand of hair behind my ear. Let's head back. I'll drive. He opens the door to let me climb off his lap and out into the parking lot. When I glance down, he's quickly doing up his fly. He follows me out and then holds the door open for me to climb back in. Strolling quickly around to the driver's side, he climbs in beside me, retrieves the BlackBerry, and makes a call. Where's Sawyer? He snaps. And the Dodge? How come Sawyer's not with you? He listens intently to Ryan, I assume. Her? He gasps. Stick with her. Christian hangs up and gazes at me. Her? The driver of the car? Who could that be? Elena? Layla? The driver of the Dodge is female? So it would appear, he says quietly. His mouth presses into a thin, angry line. Let's get you home, he mutters. He starts up the R8 with a roar and reverses smoothly out of the space. Where's the, unsub? What does that mean, by the way? Sounds very BDSM. Christian smiles briefly as he eases the car out of the lot and back onto Stewart Street. It's Ryan is ex-FBI. Ex? Don't ask. Christian shakes his head. It's obvious he's deep in contemplation. Well, where is this female unsub? On the I-5, heading south. He glances at me, his eyes grin. Whoa, from passionate to calm to anxious in the space of a few moments. I reach over and caress his thigh, running my fingers leisurely up the inside seam of his jeans, hoping to improve his mood. He takes his hand off the steering wheel and stops the slow ascent of my hand. No, he says, we've made it this far. You don't want me to have an accident 3 blocks from home. He raises my hand to his lips and plants a cool kiss on my index finger to take the sting out of his rebuke. Cool, calm, authoritative. I 50. And for the first time in a while, he makes me feel like a wayward child. I withdraw my hand and sit quietly for a moment. Female? Apparently so. He sighs, turns into the underground garage at Escala, and punches the access code into the security pad. The gate swings open and he drives on, smoothly parking the R8 in its designated space. I really like this car, I murmur. Me too. And I like how you handled it, and how you managed not to break it. You can buy me one for my birthday. I smirk at him. Christian's mouth drops open as I climb out of the car. A white one, I think, I add, leaning down and grinning at him. He smiles. Anastasia Gray, you never cease to amaze me. I shut the door and walk to the end of the car to wait for him. Gracefully, he climbs out, watching me with that look that calls to something deep inside me. I know this look well. Once he's in front of me, he leans down and whispers, You like the car? I like the car. I've fucked you in it. Perhaps I should fuck you on it. I gasp, and a sleek silver BMW pulls into the garage. Christian glances at it anxiously, then with annoyance, and gives me a sly smile. But it looks like we have company. Come. He grabs my hand and heads for the garage elevator. He pushes the call button, and as we wait, the driver of the BMW joins us. Casually dressed, with long, layered, dark hair. He looks like he works in the media. Hi, he says, smiling warmly at us. Christian puts his arm around me and nods politely. I've just moved in, apartment 16. Hello. I return his smile. He has kind, soft brown eyes. The elevator arrives and we all walk in. Christian glances down at me, his expression unreadable. You're Christian Gray, the young man says. Christian gives him a tight smile. No, Logan. He holds out his hand. Reluctantly, Christian takes it. Which floor? Noah asks. I have to input a code. Oh. Penthouse. Oh. Noah smiles broadly. Of course. He presses the button for the 8th floor and the doors close. Mrs. Gray, I presume? Yes. I give him a polite smile and we shake hands. Noah flushes a little as he gazes at me a fraction too long. I mirror his flush and Christian's arm tightens around me. When did you move in? I ask. Last weekend. I love the place. There's an awkward pause before the elevator stops at Noah's floor. Great to meet you both, he says, sounding relieved, and steps out. The doors close silently behind him. Christian taps in the entry code, and the elevator ascends again. He seemed nice, I murmur. I've never met any of the neighbors before. Christian scowls. I prefer it that way. That's because you're a hermit. I thought he was pleasant enough. A hermit? Hermit, stuck in your ivory tower, I state matter-of-factly. Christian's lips twitch with amusement. Our ivory tower. And I think you have another name to add to the list of your admirers, Mrs. Gray. I roll my eyes. Christian, you think everyone is an admirer. Did you just roll your eyes at me? My pulse quickens. I sure did, I whisper, my breath catching in my throat. He cocks his head to one side, wearing his smoldering, arrogant, amused expression. What shall we do about that? Expression. What shall we do about that? Something rough. He blinks to hide his surprise. Rough? Please? You want more? I nod slowly. The doors to the elevator open and we're home. How rough? He breathes, his eyes darkening. At him, saying nothing. He closes his eyes for a moment and then grabs my hand and hauls me into the foyer. When we burst through the double doors, Sawyer is standing in the hallway, looking expectantly at the two of us. Sawyer, I'd like to be debriefed in an hour, Christian says. Yes, sir. Turning, Sawyer heads back into Taylor's office. We have an hour. Christian glances down at me. Rough. I nod. Well, Well, Mrs. Gray, you're in luck. I'm taking requests today. Chapter 6. Do you have anything in mind? Christian murmurs, pinning me with his bold gaze. I shrug, suddenly breathless and agitated. I don't know if it's the chase, the adrenaline, my earlier bad mood. I don't understand, but I want this, and I want it badly. A puzzled expression flits across Christian's face. Kiki fuckery? He asks, his words a soft caress. I nod, feeling my face flame. Why am I embarrassed by this? I have done all manner of kinky fuckery with this man. He's my husband, damn it. Am I embarrassed because I want this and I'm ashamed to admit it? My subconscious glares at me. Stop overthinking. Carte blanche. He whispers the question, eyeing me speculatively. He's trying to read my mind. Carte blanche. Holy fuck. What will that entail? Yes, I murmur nervously, as excitement blooms deep inside me. He smiles a slow, sexy smile. Come, he says, and tugs me toward the stairs. His intention is clear. Playroom! At the top of the stairs, he releases my hand and unlocks the playroom door. The key is on the Yes, Seattle keychain that I gave him not so long ago. After you, Mrs. Gray, he says, and swings the door open. The playroom smells reassuringly familiar, of leather and wood and fresh polish. I blush, knowing that Mrs. Jones must have been in here cleaning while we were away on our honeymoon. As we enter, Christian switches on the lights and the dark red walls are illuminated with soft, diffused light. I stand gazing at him, anticipation running thick and heavy through my veins. What will he do? He locks the door and turns. Inclining his head to one side, he regards me thoughtfully and then shakes his head, amused. What do you want, Anastasia? He asks gently. You. My response is breathy. He smirks. You've got me. You've had me since you fell into my office. Surprise me then, Mr. Gray. His mouth twists with repressed humor and carnal promise. As you wish, Mrs. He folds his arms and raises one long index finger to his lips while he appraises me. I think we'll start by ridding you of your clothes. He steps forward, grasping the front of my short denim jacket. He opens it and pushes it over my shoulders so it falls to the floor. He clasps the hem of my black camisole. Lift your arms. I obey, and he peels it off over my head. Leaning down, he plants a soft kiss on my lips, his eyes glowing with an alluring mix of lust and love. The camisole joins my jacket on the floor. Here, I whisper, gazing nervously at him as I remove the hair tie from around my wrist and hold it up for him. He stills. His eyes widen briefly, but give nothing away. Finally, he takes the small band. Turn around, he orders. Relieved, I smile to myself and oblige immediately. Looks like we've overcome that little hurdle. He gathers my hair and braids it quickly and efficiently before fastening it with the tie. He tugs the braid, pulling my head back. Good thinking, Mrs. Gray. He whispers in my ear, then knits my earlobe. Now turn around and take your skirt off. Let it fall to the floor. He releases me and steps back as I turn to face him. Not taking my eyes off his, I unbutton the waistband of my skirt and ease the zipper down. The full skirt fans out and falls to the floor, pooling at my feet. Step out from your skirt, he orders. As I step toward him, he kneels swiftly down in front of me and grasps my right ankle. Deftly, he unbuckles my sandals one at a time while I lean forward, balancing myself with a hand on the wall under the pegs that used to hold all his whips, crops, and paddles. The flogger and the riding crop are the only implements that remain. I eye them with curiosity. Will he knows? Having removed my shoes, so I'm just in my lacy bra and panties, Christian sits back on his heels, gazing up at me. You're a fine sight, Mrs. Gray. Suddenly he kneels up, grabs my hips, and pulls me forward, burying his nose in the apex of my thighs. And you smell of you and me and sex, he says, inhaling sharply. It's intoxicating. He kisses me through my lace panties, while I gasp at his words, my insides liquefying. He's just so naughty. Gathering up my clothes and sandals, he stands in one swift, graceful move, like an athlete. Go by the table, he says calmly, pointing with his chin. Turning, he strides over to the museum chest of wonder. He glances back and smirks at me. Face the wall, he commands. That way you won't know what I'm planning. We aim to please Mrs. Gray, and you wanted a surprise. I turn away from him, listening acutely, my ears suddenly sensitive to the slightest sound. He's good at this, building my expectations, stoking my desire, making me wait. I hear him put my shoes down and, I think, my clothes on the chest, followed by the telltale clatter of his shoes as they drop to the floor, one at a time. Love barefoot Christian. A moment later, I hear him pull open a drawer. Toys! Oh, I love this anticipation. The drawer closes and my breathing spikes. How can the drawer render me a quivering mess? It makes no sense. The subtle hiss of the sound system coming to life tells me it's going to be a musical interlude. A lone piano starts, heated and soft, and mournful chords fill the room. It's not a tune I know. The piano is joined by an electric guitar. What is this? A man's voice speaks, and I can just make out the words. Something about not being frightened of dying. Christian pads leisurely toward me, his bare feet slapping on the wooden floor. I sense him behind me as a woman starts to sing. Wail. Sing? Rough, you say, Mrs. Gray. He breathes in my left ear. You must tell me to stop if it's too much. If you say stop, I will stop immediately. Do you understand? Yes. I need your promise. I inhale sharply. Shit, what is he going to do? I promise, I murmur breathlessly, recalling his words from earlier. I don't want to hurt you, but I'm more than happy to play. Good girl. Leaning down, he plants a kiss on my naked shoulder, then hooks a finger beneath my bra strap and traces a line across my back beneath the strap. I want to moan. How does he make the slightest touch so erotic? Take it off, he whispers in my ear, and I hurriedly oblige and let my bra fall to the floor. His hands skim down my back, and he hooks both of his thumbs into my panties and slides them down my legs. Step, he orders. Once more I do as I'm told, stepping out of my panties. He plants a kiss on my backside and stands. I'm going to blindfold you so that everything will be more intense. He slips an airline eye mask over my eyes, and my world is plunged into darkness. The woman singing moans incoherently, a haunting, heartfelt melody, and lie flat on the table. His words are softly spoken. Now. Without hesitation, I bend over the side of the table and rest my torso on the highly polished wood, my face flush against the hard surface. It's cool against my skin, and it smells vaguely of beeswax with a citrus tang. Stretch your arms up and hold on to the edge. Okay. Reaching forward, I clutch the far edge of the table. It's quite wide, so my arms are fully extended. If you let go, I will spank you. Do you understand? Yes. Do you want me to spank you, Anastasia? Everything south of my waist tightens deliciously. I realize I've wanted this since he threatened me during lunch, and neither the chase nor our subsequent intimate encounter has this meaning. Yes. My voice is a hoarse whisper. Why? Oh, Do I have to have a reason? I shrug. Tell me, he coaxes. And from out of nowhere he smacks me hard. Ah! I cry out. Hush now. He gently rubs my behind where he's hit me. Then he leans over me, his hips digging into my backside, plants a kiss between my shoulder blades, and trails kisses across my back. He's taken his shirt off, so his chest hair tickles my back, and his erection presses against me through the rough fabric of his jeans. Open your legs, he orders. I move my legs apart, wider. I groan and spread my legs wider. Good girl. He breathes. He traces his finger down my back, along the crack between my buttocks, and over my anus, which shrinks at his touch. We're going to have some fun with this, he whispers. Ah! His finger continues down over my perineum and slowly slides into me. I see you're very wet, Anastasia. From earlier or from now? I groan and he eases his finger in and out of me, over and over. I push back on his hand, relishing the intrusion. Oh, Anna, I think it's both. I think you love being here, like this, mine. I do. Oh, I do. He withdraws his finger and smacks me hard once more. Tell me, he whispers, his voice hoarse and urgent. Yes, I do, I whimper. He smacks me hard once more, so I cry out, then sticks 2 fingers inside me. He withdraws them immediately, spreading the moisture up, over, and around my anus. What are you going to do? I ask, breathless. Oh my, is he going to fuck my ass? It's not what you think, he murmurs reassuringly. I told you, one step at a time with this, baby. I hear the quiet spurt of some liquid, presumably from a tube. Then his fingers are massaging me, there, again. Lubricating me, there. I squirm as my fear collides with my excitement of the unknown. He smacks me once more, lower, so he hits my sex. I groan. It feels so good. Keep still, he says, and don't let go. Ah! This is lube. He spreads some more on me. I try not to wriggle beneath him, but my heart is pounding, my pulse haywire, as desire and anxiety pump through me. I have wanted to do this to you for some time now, Anna. I groan, and I feel something cool, metallically cool, run down my spine. I have a small present for you here, Christian whispers. An image from our show and tell springs to mind. Holy crap, a butt plug. Christian runs it down the parting between my buttocks. Oh my. I am going to push this inside you, very slowly. I gasp, anticipation and anxiety charging through me. Will it hurt? No, baby, it's small. Once it's inside you, I'm going to fuck you real hard. I practically convulse. Bending over me, he kisses me once more between my shoulder blades. Ready? He whispers. Ready? Am I ready for this? Yes, I mutter quietly, my mouth dry. He runs another finger down past my ass and perineum and slips it inside me. Fuck, it's his thumb. He cups my sex and his fingers gently caress my clitoris. I moan. It feels good. And gently, while his fingers and thumb work their magic, he pushes the cold plug slowly into me. Ah! I groan loudly at the unfamiliar sensation, my muscles protesting at the intrusion. He circles his thumb inside me and pushes the plug harder, and it slips in easily. And I don't know if it's because I'm so turned on, or if he's distracted me with his expert fingers, but my body seems to accept it. It's heavy and strange. There. Oh, baby. And I can feel it, where his thumb swirls inside me, and the plug presses against. Oh, ah. He slowly twists the plug, eliciting a long, drawn from me. Christian, I mumble, his name a garbled mantra, as I adjust to the sensation. Good girl, he murmurs. He runs his free hand down my side until it reaches my hip. Slowly, he withdraws his thumb, and I hear the telltale sound of his zipper opening. Grasping my other hip, he pulls me back and parts my legs farther, his foot pushing against mine. Don't let go of the table, Anna, he warns. No, I gasp. Something rough? Tell me if I'm too rough. Understand? Yes, I whisper, and he slams into me and pulls me onto him at the same time, jolting the plug forward, deeper. Fuck! I cry out. He stills, his breathing harsher, and my panting matches his. I try to assimilate all the sensations, the delicious fullness, the tantalizing feeling that I am doing something forbidden, the erotic pleasure that spirals outward from deep within me. He pulls gently on the plug. I moan, and I hear his sharp intake of breath, a gasp of pure, unadulterated pleasure. It heats my blood. Have I ever felt so wanton? So, again, he whispers. Yes. Stay flat, he orders. He eases out of me and rams into me again. Oh, I wanted this. Yes, I hiss. And he picks up the pace, his breathing more labored, matching my own as he thrashes into me. Oh, Anna, he gasps. He moves one of his hands from my hips and twists the plug again, tugging it slowly, pulling it out and pushing it back in. The feeling is indescribable, and I think I'm going to pass out on the table. He never misses a beat as he takes me again and again, moving strong and hard inside me, my insides tightening and quivering. Oh, fuck! I moan. This is going to rip apart. Yes, baby, he hisses. Please, I beg him, and I don't know what for. To stop? To never stop? To twist the plug again? My insides are tightening around him and the plug. That's right. He breathes, and he slaps me hard on my right buttock. And I come, again and again, falling, spinning, pulsing, spinning, pulsing around and around. And Christian gently pulls the plug out. Fuck! I scream, and Christian grabs my hips and climaxes loudly, holding me still. The woman is still singing. Christian always puts songs on repeat in here. Strange. I am curled in his arms on his lap, our legs tangled together, with my head resting against his chest. We're on the floor of the playroom by the table. Welcome back, he says, peeling the blindfold off me. I blink as my eyes adjust to the muted light. Tipping my chin back, he plants a soft kiss on my lips, his eyes focused on and anxiously searching mine. I reach out to caress his face. He smiles. Well, did I fulfill the brief? He asks, amused. Brief? You wanted rough, he says gently. I grin because I just can't help it. Yes, I think you did. He raises his eyebrows and grins back at me. Very glad to hear it. You look thoroughly well fucked and beautiful at this moment. He caresses my face, his long fingers stroking my cheek. I feel it, I purr. He reaches down and kisses me tenderly, his lips soft and warm and giving against mine. You never disappoint. He leans back to gaze down at me. How do you feel? His voice is soft with concern. Good, I murmur, feeling a flush creep across my face. Thoroughly well fucked. I smile shyly. Hi, Mrs. Gray, you have a dirty, dirty mouth. Christian feigns an offended expression, but I can hear his amusement. That's because I'm married to a dirty, dirty boy, Mr. Gray. He grins a ridiculously stupid grin, and it's infectious. I'm glad you're married to him. He gently takes hold of my braid, lifts it to his lips, and kisses the end with reverence, his eyes glowing with love. Oh my! Did I ever have a chance of resisting this man? I reach for his left hand and plant a kiss on his wedding ring, a plain platinum band matching my own. Mine, I whisper. Yours, he responds. He curls his arms around me and presses his nose into my hair. Shall I run you a bath? Only if you join me in it. Okay, he says. He sets me onto my feet and stands up beside me. He's still wearing his jeans. Will you wear your, other jeans? He frowns down at me. Other jeans? The ones you used to wear in here. Those jeans? He murmurs, blinking with perplexed surprise. You look very hot in them. Do I? Yeah, I mean, really hot. He smiles shyly. Well, for you, Mrs. Gray, maybe I will. He bends to kiss me, then grabs the small bowl on the table that contains the butt plug, the tube of lubricant, the blindfold, and my panties. Who cleans these toys? As I follow him over to the chest. He frowns at me, as if not understanding the question. Me? Mrs. Jones? What? He nods, amused and embarrassed, I think. He switches off the music. Well, your subs used to do it? I finish his sentence. He gives me an apologetic shrug. Here. He hands me his shirt and I put it on, wrapping it around myself. His scent still clings to the linen, and my chagrin about butt washing is forgotten. He leaves the items on the chest. Taking my hand, he unlocks the playroom door, then leads me out and downstairs. I follow him meekly. The anxiety, the bad mood, the thrill, fear, and excitement of the car chase have all gone. I'm relaxed, finally sated and calm. As we enter our bathroom, I yawn loudly and stretch, at ease with myself for a change. What is it? Christian asks as he turns on the faucet. Tell me, he asks softly. He spills jasmine bath oil into the running water, filling the room with its sweet, sensual scent. I flush. I just feel better. He smiles. Yes, you've been in a strange mood today, Mrs. Gray. Standing, he pulls me into his arms. I know you're worrying about these recent events. I'm sorry you were caught up in them. I don't know if it's a vendetta, an ex-employee, or a business rival. If anything were to happen to you because of me. His voice drops to a pained whisper. I curl my arms around him. What if something happens to you, Christian? I voice my fear. He gazes down at me. We'll figure this out. Now let's get you out of this shirt and into this bath. Shouldn't you talk to Sawyer? He can wait. His mouth hardens and I feel a sudden pang of pity for Sawyer. What's he done to upset Christian? Christian helps me out of his shirt, then frowns as I turn to him. My breasts still bear faded bruises from the love bites he gave me during our honeymoon, but I decide not to tease him about them. I wonder if Ryan has caught up with the Dodge? We'll see. After this bath. Get in. He holds his hand out for me. I climb into the hot, fragrant water and sit tentatively. Ow! My ass is tender, and the hot water makes me wince. Easy, baby. Christian warns, but as he says it, the uncomfortable sensation melts away. He climbs in behind me. pulling me against his chest. I nestle between his legs, and we lie idle and content in the hot water. I run my fingers down his legs, and gathering my braid in one hand, he twirls it gently between his fingers. We need to go over the plans for the new house. Later this evening? Sure. That woman is coming back again. My subconscious gazes up from volume 3 of The Complete Works of Charles Dickens and glowers. I'm with my subconscious. I sigh. Unfortunately, Gia Mateo's designs are breathtaking. I must get my things ready for work, I whisper. He stills. You know you don't have to go back to work, he murmurs. Oh no, not this again. Christian, we've been through this. Please don't resurrect that argument. He tugs my braids so my face tilts up and back. Just saying. He plants a soft kiss on my lips. I pull on sweatpants and a camisole and decide to fetch my clothes from the playroom. As I make my way across the hallway, I hear Christian's raised voice from his study. I freeze. Where the fuck were you? Oh shit. He's shouting at Sawyer. Cringing, I dash upstairs to the playroom. I really don't want to hear what he has to say to him. I still find shouty Christian intimidating. Poor Sawyer. At least I get to shout back. I gather up my clothes and Christian's shoes, then notice the small porcelain bowl with the butt plug still on top of the museum chest. Well, I suppose I should clean it. I add it to the pile and make my way back downstairs. I glance nervously through the great room, but all is quiet, thank heavens. Taylor will be back tomorrow evening, and Christian is generally calmer when he's around. Taylor is spending some quality time today and tomorrow with his daughter. I wonder idly if I'll ever get to meet her. Mrs. Jones comes out of the utility room. We startle each other. Mrs. Gray, I didn't see you there. Oh, I'm Mrs. Gray now. Hello, Mrs. Jones. Welcome home, and congratulations. She smiles. Please, call me Anna. Mrs. Gray, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Oh, why must everything change? Because I have a ring on my finger. Would you like to run through the menus for the week? She asks, looking at me expectantly. Menus? This is not a question I have ever anticipated being. She smiles. When I first worked for Mr. Gray, every Sunday evening I would run through the menus for the upcoming week with him and list anything he might need from the grocery store. I see. Shall I take those for you? She holds out her hands for my clothes. Oh, actually, I haven't finished with these. And they are hiding the bowl with the butt plug in it. I turn crimson. It's a wonder I can look Mrs. Jones in the eye. She knows what we do. She cleans the room. Jeez, it's just weird having no privacy. When you're ready, Mrs. Gray, I'd be more than happy to run through things with you. Thank you. We are interrupted by an ashen-faced Sawyer. He stalks out of Christian's study and briskly crosses the great room. Both a brief nod, not looking either of us in the eye, and slinks into Taylor's study. I'm grateful for his intervention, as I don't wish to discuss menus or butt plugs with Mrs. Jones right now. Offering her a brief smile, I scurry back to the bedroom. Will I ever get used to having domestic staff at my beck and call? I shake my head. One day, maybe. I dump Christian's shoes on the floor and my clothes on the bed, and take the bowl with the butt plug into the bathroom. I eye it suspiciously. It looks nice enough, and surprisingly clean. I don't want to dwell on that, and I wash it quickly with soap and water. Will that be enough? I'll have to ask Mr. Sexpert if it should be sterilized or something. I shudder at the thought. I like that Christian has turned the library over to me. It now houses an attractive white wooden desk I can work at. I take out my laptop and check my notes on the 5 manuscripts I read on our honeymoon. Yep, I have everything I need. Part of me dreads going back to work, but I can never tell Christian that. He'd seize on the opportunity to make me quit. I remember Roach's apoplectic reaction when I told him I was getting married, and to whom, and how, shortly afterward, that position was confirmed. I realize now it was because I was marrying the boss. The thought is unwelcome. I am no longer acting editor. I am Anastasia Steele, editor. I hadn't yet plucked up the courage to tell Christian that I am not going to change my name at work. I think my reasons are solid. I need some distance from him, but I know there will be a fight when he finally realizes that. Perhaps I should discuss this with him tonight. Sitting back in my chair, I start my day. I glance at the digital clock on my laptop, which tells me it's 7 in the evening. Christian still hasn't emerged from his study, so I have time. Taking the memory card out of the Nikon camera, I load it into the laptop to transfer the photographs. As the pictures upload, I reflect on the day. Is Ryan back? Or is he still on his way to Portland? Has he caught up with the mystery woman? Has Christian heard from him? I want some answers. I don't care that he's busy. I want to know what's going on. And I suddenly feel a tad resentful that he's keeping me in the dark. I rise, intending to go and confront him in his study. But as I do, the photos from the last few days of our honeymoon pop up on screen. Holy crap! Picture after picture of me, asleep. So many of me asleep. My hair over my face or fanned out across my pillow, lips parted. Shit, sucking my thumb. I haven't sucked my thumb for years. So many photos. I had no idea he'd taken these. There are a few candid long shots, including one of me leaning over the rail of the yacht, staring moodily into the distance. How did I not notice him taking this? I smile at the photos of me and then laughing, my hair flying as I struggle, biting his tickling, tormenting fingers. And there's the one of him and me on the bed in the master at arm's length. I am cuddled on his chest, and he gazes at the camera, young, wide-eyed, in love. His other hand cups my head, and I am smiling like a love-struck fool. But I cannot take my eyes off Christian. Oh, my beautiful man. His ruffled, just-fucked hair, his gray eyes glowing, his lips parted and smiling. My beautiful man who cannot bear to be tickled, who could not bear to be touched just a short while ago. Yet now he rates my touch. I must ask him if he likes it, or whether he lets me touch him for my pleasure rather than his. I frown, gazing down at his image, suddenly overwhelmed by my feelings for him. Someone out there wants to harm him. First, Charlie Tango, then the fire at GEH, and that damned car chase. I gasp, putting my hand to my mouth as an involuntary sob escapes. Abandoning my computer, I leap up to find him, not to confront him now, just to check that he's safe. Not bothering to knock, I barge into his study. Christian is sitting at his desk and talking on the phone. He looks up in surprised annoyance, but the irritation on his face disappears when he sees it's me. So you can't enhance it further? He says, continuing his phone conversation, though he doesn't take his eyes off me. Without hesitation, I walk around his desk, and he turns in his chair to face me, frowning. I can tell he's thinking, what does she want? When I crawl onto his lap, his eyebrows shoot up in surprise. I put my arms around his neck and cuddle into him. Gingerly, he puts his arm around me. Yes, Barney. Could you hold one moment? He cups the phone against his shoulder. What's wrong? I shake my head. Tipping my chin up, he gazes into my eyes. I pull my head free from his hold, tuck it beneath his chin, and curl up smaller on his lap. Bemused, he wraps his free arm more tightly around me and kisses the top of my head. Okay, Barney, what were you saying? He continues, wedging the phone between his ear and his shoulder, and taps the key on his laptop. A grainy black and white CCTV image appears on the screen. A man with dark hair wearing pale coveralls comes on the screen. Christian another key, and the man walks toward the camera, but with his head bowed. When the man is closer to the camera, Christian freezes the frame. He's standing in a bright white room with what looks like a long line of tall black cabinets to his left. This must be GEH's server room. Okay, Barney, one more time. The screen springs to life. A box appears around the head of the man in the CCTV footage, and suddenly we zoom in. I sit up, fascinated. Is Barney doing this? I ask quietly. Yes, Christian answers. Can you sharpen the picture at all? He says to Barney. The picture blurs, then refocuses moderately sharper on the man consciously gazing down and avoiding the camera. As I stare at him, a chill of recognition sweeps up my spine. There is something familiar in the line of his jaw. He has scruffy, short black hair that looks odd and unkempt. And in the newly sharpened picture, I see an earring, a small hoop. Holy crap! I know who it is! Christian, I whisper. That's Jack Hyde. Chapter 7. You think? Christian asks, surprised. It's the line of his jaw. I point at the screen. And the earrings and the shape of his shoulders. He's the right build, too. He must be wearing a wig, or he's cut and dyed his hair. Barney, are you getting this? Christian puts the phone down on his desk and switches to hands-free. You seem to have studied your ex-boss in some detail, Mrs. Gray. He murmurs, sounding none too pleased. I scowl at him, but I'm saved by Barney. Yes, sir. I heard Mrs. Gray. I'm running face recognition software on all the digitized CCTV footage right now. See where else this asshole... I'm sorry, ma'am. This man has been within the organization. I glance anxiously at Christian, who ignores Barney's expletive. He's studying the CCTV picture closely. Why would he do this? I ask Christian. He shrugs. Revenge, perhaps. I don't know. You can't fathom why some people behave the way they do. I'm just angry that you ever worked so closely with him. Christian's mouth presses into a hard, thin line, and he encircles my waist with his arm. We have the contents of his hard drive too, sir. Barney adds. Yes, I remember. Do you have an address for Mr. Hyde? Christian says sharply. Yes, sir, I do. Alert Welch. Sure will. I'm also going to scan the city CCTV and see if I can track his movement. Check what vehicle he owns. Sir. Barney can do all this? I whisper. Christian nods and gives me a smug smile. What was on his hard drive? I whisper. Christian's face hardens and he shakes his head. Nothing much, he says, tight-lipped, his smile forgotten. Tell me. No. Was it about you or me? Me. He sighs. What sort of things? About your lifestyle? Christian shakes his head and puts his index finger against my lips to silence me. I scowl at him, but he narrows his eyes, and it's a clear warning that I should hold my tongue. It's a 2006 Camaro. I'll send the license details to Welch, too. Barney says excitedly from the phone. Good. Let me know where else that fucker has been in my building. And check his image against the one from his SIP personnel file. I want to be sure we have a match. Already done, sir. And Mrs. Gray is correct. This is Jack Hyde. I grin. See, I can be useful. Christian rubs his hand down my back. Well done, Mrs. Gray. He smiles, his earlier rancor forgotten. To Barney, he says, let me know when you've tracked all his movements at HQ. Also, check out any other GEH property he may have had access to, and let the security teams know so they can make another sweep of all those buildings. Sir. Thanks, Barney. Christian hangs up. Well, Mrs. Gray, it seems that you are not only decorative, but useful too. Christian's eyes light up with wicked amusement. I know he's teasing. Decorative? I scoff, teasing him back. Very, he says quietly, pressing a kiss on my lips. You're much more decorative than I am, Mr. Gray. He grins and kisses me more forcefully, winding my braid around his wrist and wrapping his arms around me. When we come up for air, racing. Hungry? He asks. No, I am. What for? Well, food, actually. I'll make you something. I giggle. I love that sound. Of me offering you food? You're giggling. He kisses my hair, then I stand. So, what would you like to eat, sir? I ask sweetly. He narrows his eyes. Are you being cute, Mrs. Gray? Always, Mr. Gray. Sir. He smiles a sphinx-like smile. I can still put you over my knee. He murmurs seductively. I know. I grin. Placing my hands on the arms of his office chair, I lean down and kiss him. That's one of the things I love about you. But stow your twitching palm. You're hungry. He smiles his shy smile, and my heart clenches. Oh, Mrs. Gray, what am I going to do with you? You're going to answer my question. What would you like to eat? Something like spread, he says, mirroring my words from the playroom earlier. I'll see what I can do. I sashay out of his study and into the kitchen. My heart sinks when I see Mrs. Jones is there. Hello, Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Gray, are you ready for something to eat? She is stirring something in a pot on the stove that smells delicious. I was going to make subs for Mr. Gray and me. She pauses for a heartbeat. Sure, she says. Mr. Gray likes French bread. There are some in the freezer cut to sub-length. I'd be happy to make it for you, ma'am. I know, but I'd like to do this. I understand. I'll give you some room. What are you cooking? This is a bolognese sauce. It can be eaten anytime. I'll freeze it. She smiles warmly and turns the heat right down. So what does Christian like in a, sub? I'm struck by what I just said. Does Mrs. Jones understand the inference? Mrs. Gray, you could put just about anything in a sandwich, and as long as it's on French bread, he'll eat it. We grin at each other. Okay, thank you. I skip to the freezer and find the French bread, cut to size in Ziploc bags. I place 2 of them on a plate, microwave, and set it to defrost. Mrs. Jones has disappeared. I frown as I return to the fridge to search for ingredients. I suppose it will be up to me to set the parameters by which Mrs. Jones and I will work together. I like the idea of cooking for Christian on the weekends. Mrs. Jones is more than welcome to do it during the week. The last thing I want to do when I come home from work is cook. A bit like Christian's routine with his submissives. I shake my head. I mustn't overthink this. I find some ham in the fridge, and in the crisper, a perfectly ripe avocado. As I am adding a touch of salt and lemon to the mashed avocado, Christian emerges from the plans for the new house in his hands. He puts them on the breakfast bar, saunters toward me, and wraps his arms around me, kissing my neck. Barefoot and in the kitchen, he murmurs. Shouldn't that be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen? I smirk. He stills, his whole body tensing against me. Not yet, he declares, apprehension clear in his voice. No, not yet. He relaxes. On that, we can agree, Mrs. Gray. You do want kids, though, don't you? Sure, yes, eventually. But I'm not ready to share you yet. He kisses my neck again. Oh, share? What are you making? Looks looks good. He kisses me behind my ear, and I know it's to distract me. A delicious tingle travels down my spine. Subs, I smirk, recovering my sense of humor. He smiles against my neck and nips my earlobe. My favorite. I poke him with my elbow. Mrs. Gray, you wound me. He clutches his side as if in pain. Wimp, I mutter disapprovingly. Wimp, he utters in disbelief. He slaps my behind, making me yelp. Hurry up with my food, wench, and later I'll show you how wimpy I can be. He slaps me playfully once more and goes to the fridge. Would you like a glass of wine? He asks. Please. Christian spreads Gia's plans out over the breakfast bar. She really has some spectacular ideas. I love her proposal to make the entire downstairs back wall glass, but, Christian prompts. I sigh. I don't want to take all the character out of the house. Character? Yes. What Gia is proposing is quite radical, but, well, I fell in love with the house as it is, warts and all. Christian's brow furrows as if this is anathema to him. I kind of like it the way it is, I whisper. Is this going to make him mad? He regards me steadily. I want this house to be the way you want. Whatever you want. It's yours. I want you to like it too, to be happy in it too. I'll be happy wherever you are. It's that simple, Anna. His gaze holds mine. He is utterly, utterly sincere. I blink at him as my heart expands. Holy cow. He really does love me. Well, I swallow, fighting the small knot of emotion that catches in my throat. I like the glass wall. Maybe we could ask her to incorporate it into the house a little more sympathetically. Christian grins. Sure, whatever you want. What about the plans for upstairs and the basement? I'm cool with those. Good. Okay. I steel myself to ask the million-dollar question. Do you want to put in a playroom? I feel the oh-so-familiar my face as I ask. Christian's eyebrows shoot up. Do you? He replies, surprised and amused at once. I shrug. If you want. He regards me for a moment. Let's leave our options open for the moment. After all, this will be a family home. I'm surprised. Dab of disappointment, I feel. I guess he's right. Although, when are we going to have a family? It could be years. Besides, we can improvise. I like improvising. I whisper. He grins. There's something I want to discuss. Christian points to the master bedroom, and we start a detailed discussion on bathrooms and separate walk-in closets. When we finish, it's 9:30 in the evening. Are you going back to work? I ask as Christian rolls up the plans. Not if you don't want me to. He smiles. What would you like to do? We could watch TV. I don't want to read, and I don't want to go to bed yet. Okay. Christian agrees willingly, and I follow him into the TV room. We have sat here 3, maybe 4 times total, and Christian usually reads a book. He's not interested in television at all. I curl up beside him on the couch, tucking my legs beneath me and resting my head against his shoulder. He switches on the flat-screen television with the remote and flicks mindlessly through the channels. Any specific dribble you want to see? You don't like TV much, do you? I mutter sardonically. He shakes his head. Waste of time. But I'll watch something with you. I thought we could make out. He whips his face to mine. Make out? He gazes at me as if I've grown 2 heads. He stops the endless flicking, leaving the TV on an overlit Spanish soap opera. Yes? Why is he so horrified? We could go to bed and make out. We do that all the time. When was the last time you made out in front of the TV? I ask, shy and teasing at the same time. He shrugs and shakes his head. Pressing the remote again, he flicks through another few channels before settling on an old episode of The X-Files. Christian? I've never done that, he says quietly. Never? No. Not even with Mrs. Robinson? He snorts. Baby, I did a lot of things with Mrs. Robinson. Making out was not one of them. He smirks at me, and then narrows his eyes with amused curiosity. Have you? I flush. Of course. Well, kind of. What? Who with? Oh, no. I do not want to have this discussion. Tell me. He persists. I gaze down at my knotted fingers. He gently covers my hands with one of his. When I glance up at him, he's smiling at me. I want to know, so I can beat whoever it was to a pulp. I giggle. Well, the first time, there's more than one fucker? He growls. I giggle again. Why so surprised, Mr. Gray? He frowns briefly, runs a hand through his hair, and looks at me as if seeing me in a completely different light. He shrugs. I just am, given your lack of experience. I flush. I've certainly made up for that since I met you. You have. He grins. Tell me. I want to know. I gaze into his patient gray eyes, trying to gauge his mood. Is this going to make him mad, or does he genuinely want to know? I don't want him. He's impossible when he's sulking. You really want me to tell you? He nods slowly once, and his lips twitch with an amused, arrogant smile. I was briefly in Texas with Mom and husband number 3. I was in 10th grade. His name was Bradley, and he was my lab partner in physics. How old were you? 15. And what's he doing now? I don't know. What base did he get to? Christian! I scold, and suddenly my knees, then my ankles, and tips me up so I fall back onto the couch. He slides smoothly on top of me, trapping me beneath him, one leg between mine. It's so sudden that I cry out in surprise. He grabs my hands and raises them above my head. So, this Bradley, did he get to first base? He murmurs, running his nose down the length of mine. He plants soft kisses at the corner of my mouth. Yes, I murmur against his lips. He releases one of his hands so that he can clasp my chin and hold me still, while his tongue invades my mouth, and I surrender to his ardent kissing. Like this? Christian breathes when he comes up for air. No, nothing like that, I manage as all the blood in my body heads south. Releasing my chin, he runs his hand down over my body and back up to my breast. Did he do this? Touch you like this? His thumb skims over my nipple, through my camisole, softly, repeatedly, and it hardens under his expert touch. No, I writhe beneath him. Did he get to second base? He murmurs in my ear. His hand moves down across my ribs, past my waist, to my hip. He takes my earlobe between his teeth and gently tugs. No, I breathe. Mulder blurts from the television something about the FBI's most unwanted. Christian pauses, leans up, and presses mute on the remote. He gazes down at me. What about Joe Schmo number 2? Did he make it past second base? His eyes are smoldering hot. Angry? Turned on? It's difficult to say which. He shifts to my side and slides his hand beneath my sweatpants. No, I whisper, trapped in his carnal gaze. Christian smiles wickedly. Good. His hand cups my sex. No underwear, Mrs. Gray. I approve. He kisses me again as his fingers weave more magic, his thumb skimming over my clitoris, tantalizing me as he pushes his index finger inside me. We're supposed to be making out, I groan. Christian stills. I thought we were. No sex. What? No sex. No sex, huh? He withdraws his hand from my sweatpants. Here. He traces my lips with his index finger, and I taste my slick saltiness. He pushes his finger into my mouth, mirroring what he was doing a moment earlier. Then he shifts so he's between my legs, and his erection pushes against me. He thrusts once, twice, and again. I gasp as the material of my sweatpants rubs in just the right way. He pushes once more, grinding into me. Is this what you want? He murmurs, and moves his hips rhythmically, rocking against me. Yes, I moan. His hand moves back to concentrate on my nipple once more, and his teeth scrape along my jaw. Do you know how hot you are, Anna? His voice is hoarse as he rocks harder against me. I open my mouth to articulate a response, fail miserably, groaning loudly. He captures my mouth once more, tugging at my bottom lip with his teeth before plunging his tongue into my mouth again. He releases my other wrist, and my hands travel greedily up his shoulders and into his hair as he kisses me. When I pull on his hair, he groans and raises his eyes to mine. Ah, do you like me touching you? I whisper. His brow furrows briefly, as if he doesn't understand the question. He stops grinding against me. Of course I do. I love you touching me, Anna. I'm like a starving man at a banquet when it comes to your touch. His voice hums with passionate sincerity. Holy cow. He kneels between my legs and drags me up to haul off my top. I'm naked beneath it. Grabbing the hem of his shirt, he yanks it over his head and tosses it on the floor, then pulls me onto his kneeling lap. His arms clasped just above my behind. Touch me, he breathes. Oh my. Tentatively, I reach up and brush the tips of my fingers through the smattering of chest hair over his sternum, over his burn scars. He inhales sharply and his pupils dilate, but it's not with fear. It's a sensual response to my touch. He watches me intently as my fingers float delicately over his skin, first to one nipple and then the other. They pucker beneath my caress. Leaning forward, I plant soft kisses on his chest, and my hands move to his shoulders, feeling the hard, sculptured lines of sinew and muscle. Whoa, he's in good shape. I want you, he murmurs, and it's a green light to my libido. My fingers move into his hair, pulling his head back so I can claim his mouth, fire licking hot and high in my belly. He groans and pushes me back onto the couch. He sits up and rips off my sweatpants, undoing his fly at the same time. Home run, he whispers, and swiftly he fills me. Ah! I groan, and he stills, grabbing my face between his hands. I love you, Mrs. Gray, he murmurs, and very slowly, very gently, he makes love to me until I come apart at the seams, calling his name and wrapping myself around him, never wanting to let him go. I lay sprawled on his chest. We're on the floor of the TV room. You know, we completely bypassed third base. My fingers trace the line of his pectoral muscles. He laughs. Next time. He kisses the top of my head. I look up to stare at the television screen, where the end credits for The X-Files play. Christian reaches for the remote and switches the sound back on. You liked that show? I ask. When I was a kid. Oh, Christian as a kid. Kickboxing and the X-Files and no touching. You? He asks. Before my time. You're so young. Christian smiles fondly. I like making out with you, Mrs. Gray. Likewise, Mr. Gray. I kiss his chest, and we lie silently watching as the X-Files finish and the commercials come on. It's been a heavenly 3 weeks. Car chases and fires and psycho ex-bosses notwithstanding. Like being in our own private bubble, I muttered dreamily. Christian hums deep in his throat. I'm not sure I'm ready to share you with the rest of the world yet. Back to reality tomorrow, I murmur, trying to keep the melancholy from my voice. Christian sighs and runs his other hand through his hair. Security will be tight. I put my finger over his lips. I don't want to hear this lecture again. I know. I'll be good. I promise. Which reminds me. I shift, propping myself up on my elbows to see him better. Why were you shouting at Sawyer? He stiffens immediately. Oh, shit. Because we were followed. That wasn't Sawyer's fault. He gazes at me levelly. They should never have let you get so far in front. They know that. I blush guiltily and resume my position, resting on his chest. It was my fault. I wanted to get away from them. That wasn't enough. Christian is suddenly curt. This is not up for discussion, Anastasia. It's a fact, and they won't let it happen again. Anastasia? I am Anastasia when I am in trouble, just like at home with my mother. Okay, I mutter, placating him. I don't want to fight. Did Ryan catch up with the woman in the Dodge? No, and I'm not convinced it was a woman. Oh? I look up again. Sawyer saw someone with their hair tied back, but it was a brief look. He assumed it was a woman. Now, given that you've identified that fucker, maybe it was him. He wore his hair like that. The disgust in Christian's voice is palpable. I don't know what to make of this news. Christian runs his hand down my naked back, distracting me. If anything happened to you, he murmurs, his eyes wide and serious. I know, I whisper. I feel the same about you. I shiver at the thought. Come, you're getting cold, he says, sitting up. Let's go to bed. We can cover third base there. He smiles a lascivious smile, as mercurial as ever. Passionate, angry, anxious, sexy. My 50 shades. I take his hand and he pulls me to my feet, and without a stitch on, I follow him through the great room to the bedroom. The following morning, Christian squeezes my hand as we pull up outside SIP. He looks very much the powerful executive in his dark navy suit and matching tie. I smile. He's not been this smart since the ballet in Monaco. You know you don't have to do this, Christian murmurs. I am tempted to roll my eyes at him. I know, I whisper, not wanting Sawyer and Ryan to overhear me from the front of the Audi. He frowns, and I smile. But I want to, I continue. You know this. I lean up and kiss him. His frown doesn't disappear. What's wrong? He glances uncertainly at Ryan as Sawyer climbs out of the car. I'll miss having you to myself. I reach up to caress his face. Me too. I kiss him. It was a wonderful honeymoon. Thank you. Go to work, Mrs. Gray. You too, Mr. Gray. Sawyer opens the door. I squeeze Christian's hand once more before I climb out onto the sidewalk. As I head into the building, I give him a little wave. Sawyer holds open the door and follows me in. Hi, Anna. Claire smiles from behind the reception desk. Claire, hello. I smile back. You look wonderful. Good honeymoon? The best. Thank you. How's it been here? Old Man Roach is the same, but security has been stepped up and our server room is being overhauled. But Anna will tell you. Sure she will. I give Claire a friendly smile and head to my office. Anna is my assistant. She is tall, slim, and ruthlessly efficient to the point that in spite of the fact that she's a couple of years older, she has my latte waiting, the only coffee I let her get for me. Hi, Hannah, I say warmly. Anna, how was your honeymoon? Fantastic. Here, for you. I pop the small bottle of perfume I bought for her onto her desk, and she claps her hands with glee. Oh, thank you, she says enthusiastically. Your urgent correspondence is on your desk, and Roach would like to see you at 10. That's all I have to report for now. Good, thank you, and thanks for the coffee. I rest my briefcase on my desk and gaze at the letters. I have a lot to do. Just before 10, there's a timid tap on my door. Come in. Elizabeth looks around the door. Hi, Anna. I just wanted to say welcome back. Hey, I have to say, reading through all this correspondence, I wish I was back in the south of France. Elizabeth laughs, but her laughter is off, forced, and I cock my head to one side and gaze at her like Christian does to me. Glad you're back safely, she says. I'll see you in a few minutes at the meeting with Roach. Okay, I murmur, and she shuts the door behind her. I frown at the closed door. What was that about? I shrug it off. My email pings. It's a message from Christian. From Christian Gray. Subject, Errant Wives. Date, August 22nd, 2011. 9:56. To Anastasia Steele. 1. I sent the email below and it bounced. And it's because you haven't changed your name. Something you want to tell me? Christian Gray, CEO, Gray Enterprises Holdings, Inc. Attachment. From Christian Gray. Forward, subject, bubble. Date, August 22nd, 2011, 9:32. To Anastasia Gray. Mrs. Gray, love covering all the bases with you. Have a great first day back. Miss our bubble already. X. Christian Gray, back in the real world, CEO, Gray Enterprises Holdings, Inc. Shit. I hit reply immediately. From Anastasia Steele. Subject, don't burst the bubble. Date, August 22nd, 2011, 9:58. To Christian Gray. Husband, I am all for a baseball metaphor with you, Mr. Gray. I want to keep my name here. I'll explain this evening. I am going into a meeting now. Miss our bubble too. P.S. Thought I had to use my BlackBerry? Anastasia Steele, editor, SIP. This is going to be such a fight. I can feel it. Sighing, I gather up my papers for the meeting. The meeting lasts for 2 hours. All the editors are there, plus Roach and Elizabeth. We discuss personnel, strategy, marketing, security, and year-end. As the meeting progresses, I grow more and more uncomfortable. There's a subtle change in how my colleagues are treating me. A distance and deference that wasn't there before I left for my honeymoon. And from Courtney, who heads up the nonfiction division, there's downright hostility. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but it goes some way to explaining Elizabeth's odd greeting this morning. My mind drifts back to the yacht, then to the playroom, then to the R8 speeding away from the mystery Dodge on I-5. Perhaps Christian's right. Perhaps I can't do this anymore. The thought is depressing. This is all I've ever wanted to do. If I can't do this, what will I do? As I walk back to my office, I try to dismiss these dark thoughts. When I sit down at my desk, I quickly check my emails. Nothing from Christian. I check my BlackBerry. Still nothing. Good. At least there's been no adverse reaction to my email. Perhaps we'll discuss this tonight as per my request. I find that hard to believe, but ignoring my uneasy feeling, I open the marketing plan I was given at the meeting. As is our ritual on a Monday, Hannah comes into my office with a plate for my packed lunch courtesy of Mrs. Jones, and we sit and eat our lunches together, discussing what we want to achieve during the week. She brings me up to date with the office gossip, too, which, considering I've been away for 3 weeks, is sorely lacking. As we're chatting, there's a knock on the door. Come in. Roach opens the door, and standing beside him is Christian. I'm momentarily struck dumb. Christian shoots me a blazing look and stalks in before smiling politely at Hannah. Hello, you must be Hannah. I'm Christian Gray, he says. Hannah scrambles to her feet and holds out her hand. Mr. Gray, how nice to meet you, she stutters as they shake hands. Can I fetch you a coffee? Please, he says warmly. With a quick, puzzled glance at me, she scuttles out of the office past Roach, who stands as dumbstruck as me on the threshold of my office. If you'll excuse me, Roach, I'd like a word with Ms. Steele. Christian hisses the S sibilantly, sarcastically. This is why he's here. Oh, shit. Of course, Mr. Gray. Hannah. Roach mutters, shutting the door to my office as he departs. I recover my power of speech. Mr. Gray, how nice to see you. I smile, far too sweetly. Ms. Steele, may I sit down? It's your company. I wave at the chair Hannah vacated. Yes, it is. He smiles wolfishly at me, the smile not reaching his eyes. His tone is clipped. He's bristling with tension. I can feel it all around me. Fuck. My heart sinks. Your office is very small, he says, as he sits down facing my desk. It suits me. He regards me neutrally, but I know he's mad. I take a deep breath. This is not going to be fun. So, what can I do for you, Christian? I'm just looking over my assets. Your assets? All of them? All of them. Some of them need rebranding. Rebranding? In what way? I think you know. His voice is menacingly quiet. Please, don't tell me you have interrupted your day after 3 weeks away to come over here and fight with me about my name. I am not a freaking asset. He shifts and crosses his legs. Not exactly fight, no. Christian, I'm working. Looked like you were gossiping with your assistant to me. My cheeks heat. We were going through our schedules, I snap, and you haven't answered my question. There's a knock on the door. Come in, I shout, too loudly. Hannah opens the door and brings in a small tray, milk jug, sugar bowl, coffee, and a French press. She's gone all out. She places the tray on my desk. Thank you, Hannah, I mutter, embarrassed that I have just shouted so loudly. Do you need anything else, Mr. Gray? She asks, all breathless. I want to roll my eyes at her. No, thank you. That's all. He smiles, his dazzling, panty-dropping smile at her. She flushes and exits, simpering. Christian turns his attention back to me. Now, Ms. Steele, where were we? You were rudely interrupting my workday to fight with me about my name. Christian blinks once, surprised, I think, by the vehemence in my voice. Deftly, he picks at an invisible piece of lint on his knee with long, skilled fingers. It's distracting. He's doing it on purpose. I narrow my eyes at him. I like to make the odd impromptu visit. It keeps management on their toes, wives in their place, you know. He shrugs, his mouth set in an arrogant line. Wives in their place? I had no idea you could spare the time, I snap. His eyes frost. Why don't you want to change your name here? He asks, his voice deathly quiet. Christian, do we have to discuss this now? I'm here. I don't see why not. I have a ton of work to do, having been away for the last 3 weeks. His eyes are cool and assessing. Distant, even. I marvel that he can appear so cold after last night, after the last 3 weeks. Shit. He must be mad. Really mad. When will he learn not to overreact? Are you ashamed of me? He asks, his voice deceptively soft. No! Christian, of course not. I scowl. This is about me, not you. Jeez, he's exasperating sometimes. Silly, overbearing megalomaniac. How is this not about me? He cocks his head to one side, genuinely perplexed, some of his detachment slipping as he stares at me with wide eyes, and I realize that he's hurt. Holy fuck. I've hurt his feelings. Oh no. He's the last person I want to hurt. I have to make him see my logic. I have to explain my reasoning for my decision. Christian, when I took this job, I'd only just met you. I say patiently, struggling to find the right words. I didn't know you were going to buy the company. What can I say about that event in our brief history? His deranged reasons for doing so, his control freakery, his stalker tendencies gone mad, given completely free rein because he is so wealthy. I know he wants to keep me safe, but it's his ownership of SIP that is the fundamental problem here. If he'd never interfered, I could continue as normal and not have to face the disgruntled and whispered recriminations of my colleagues. I put my head in my hands just to break eye contact with him. Why is it so important to you? I ask, desperately trying to hold on to my fraying temper. I look up at his impassive stare, his eyes luminous, giving nothing away, his earlier hurt now hidden. But even as I ask the question, deep down I know the answer before he says it. I want everyone to know that you're mine. I am yours. Look! I hold up my left hand, showing my wedding and engagement rings. It's not enough. Not enough that I married you? My voice is barely a whisper. He blinks, registering the horror on my face. Where can I go from here? What else can I do? That's not what I mean. He snaps, and runs a hand through his overlong hair so that it flops onto his forehead. What do you mean? He swallows. I want your world to begin and end with me. He says, his expression raw. His comment completely derails me. It's like he's punched me hard in the stomach, winding and wounding me. And the vision comes to mind of a small, frightened, copper-haired, gray-eyed boy in dirty, mismatched, ill-fitting clothes. It does, I say without guile, because it's the truth. I'm just trying to establish a career, and I don't want to trade on your name. I have to do something, Christian. I can't stay imprisoned at a Scala or the new house with nothing to do. I'll go crazy. I'll suffocate. I've always worked, and I enjoy this. This is my dream job. It's all I've ever wanted. But doing this doesn't mean I love you less. You are the world to me. My throat swells and tears prick the backs of my eyes. I must not cry. Not here. I repeat it over and over in my head. I must not cry. I must not cry. He stares at me, saying nothing. Then a frown crosses his face as if he's considering what I've said. I suffocate you? His voice is bleak, and it's an echo of a question he's asked me before. No. Yes. No. This is such an exasperating conversation. Not one that I want to have now. Here. I close my eyes and rub my forehead, trying to fathom how we got to this. Look, we were talking about my name. I want to keep my name here because I want to put some distance between you and me. But only here. That's all. You know, everyone thinks I got the job because of you, when the reality is... I stop when his eyes widen. Oh no. Is it because of him? Do you want to know why you got the job, Anastasia? Anastasia? Shit. What? What do you mean? He shifts in his chair as if steeling himself. Do I want to know? The management here gave you Hyde's job to babysit. They didn't want the expense of hiring a senior executive when the company was mid-sale. They had no idea what the new owner would do with it once it passed into his ownership. And, wisely, they didn't want an expensive redundancy. So, they gave you Hyde's job to caretake until the new owner... He pauses, and his lips twitch in an ironic smile. Namely me, took over. Holy crap! What are you saying? So it was because of him. Fuck! I'm horrified. He smiles and shakes his head at my alarm. Relax. You've more than risen to the challenge. You've done very well. There's the tiniest hint of pride in his voice, and it's almost my undoing. Oh, I murmur incoherently, reeling from this news. I sit right back in my chair, open-mouthed, staring at him. He shifts again. I don't want to suffocate you, Anna. I don't want to put you in a gilded cage. Well, he pauses, his face darkening. Well, the rational part of me doesn't. He strokes his chin thoughtfully as his mind concocts some plan. Oh, where is he going with this? Christian looks up suddenly as if he's had a eureka moment. So, one of the reasons I'm here, apart from dealing with my errant wife, he says, narrowing his eyes, is to discuss what I'm going to do with this company. Errant wife? I am not errant, and I am not an asset. I scowl at Christian again, and the threat of tears subsides. So, what are your plans? I incline my head to one side, mirroring him, and I can't help my sarcastic tone. His lips twitch with the hint of a smile. Whoa, change of mood, again. How can I ever keep up with Mr. Mercurial? I'm changing the name of the company to Gray Publishing. Holy shit. And in a year's time, it will be yours. My mouth drops open once more, wider this time. This is my wedding present to you. I shut my mouth, then open it, trying to articulate something, but there's nothing there. My mind is blank. So, do I need to change the name to Steel Publishing? He's serious. Holy fuck. Christian, I whisper when my brain finally reconnects with my mouth. You gave me a watch. I can't run a business. He tilts his head to one side and gives me a censorious frown. I ran my own business from the age of 21. But you, control freak and whiz kid extraordinaire. Geez, Christian, you majored in economics at Harvard before you dropped out. At least you have some idea. I sold paint and cable ties for 3 years on a part-time basis, for heaven's sake. I've seen so little of the world, and I know next to nothing. My voice rises, growing louder and higher as I complete my tirade. You're also the most well-read person I know. He counters earnestly. You love a good book. You couldn't leave your job while we were on our honeymoon. You read how many manuscripts? 4? 5, I whisper. And you wrote full reports on all of them. You're a very bright woman, Anastasia. I'm sure you'll manage. Are you crazy? Crazy for you, he whispers. And I snort, because it's the only expression my body can make. He narrows his eyes. You'll be a laughingstock, buying a company for the little woman who has only had a full-time job for a few months of her adult life? Do you think I give a fuck what people think? Besides, you won't be on your own. I gape at him. He really has lost his marbles this time. Christian, I put my head in my hands. My emotions have been through a ringer. Is he crazy? And from somewhere dark and deep inside, I have the sudden, inappropriate need to laugh. When I look up at him again, his eyes widen. Something amusing you, Miss Steele? Yes, you. His eyes widen further, shocked, but also amused. Laughing at your husband? That will never do. And you're biting your lip. His eyes darken in that way. Oh no, I know that look. Sultry, seductive, salacious. Nope, no, not here. Don't even think about it, I warn, alarm clear in my voice. Think about what, Anastasia? I know that look. We're at work. He leans forward, his eyes glued to mine, molten gray and hungry. Holy shit. I swallow instinctively. We're in a small, reasonably soundproofed office with a lockable door, he whispers. Gross moral turpitude. I enunciate each word carefully. Not with your husband. With my boss's boss's boss, I hiss. You're my wife. Christian? No, I mean it. You can fuck me 7 shades of Sunday this evening, but not now. Not here. He blinks and narrows his eyes once more. Then, unexpectedly, he laughs. 7 shades of Sunday? He arches an eyebrow, intrigued. I may hold you to that, Miss Steele. Oh, stop with the Miss Steele! I snap and thump the desk, startling us both. For heaven's sake, Christian, if it means so much to you, I'll change my name. His mouth pops open as he inhales sharply, and then he grins, a radiant, all-teeth-showing, joyous grin. Wow. Good. He claps his hands, and all of a sudden, he stands. What now? Mission accomplished. Now, I have work to do. If you'll excuse me, Mrs. Gray. This man is so maddening. But what, Mrs. Gray? I sag. Just go. I intend to. I'll see you this evening. I'm looking forward to 7 shades of Sunday. I scowl. Oh, and I have a stack of business-related social engagement, and I'd like you to accompany me. I gape at him. Will you just go? I'll have Andrea call Hannah to put the dates in your calendar. There are some people you need to meet. You should get Hannah to handle your schedule from now on. Okay, I mumble, completely bemused, bewildered, and shell-shocked. He leans over my desk. What now? I am caught in his hypnotic gaze. Love doing business with you, Mrs. Gray. He leans in closer as I sit paralyzed, and he plants a soft, tender kiss on my lips. Laters, baby. He murmurs. He stands abruptly, winks at me, and leaves. I lay my head on my desk, feeling like I've been run over by a freight train. The freight train that is my beloved husband. He has to be the most frustrating, annoying, contrary man on the planet. I sit up and frantically rub my eyes. What have I just agreed to? Okay, Anna Gray running SIP. I mean, Gray Publishing. The man is insane. There's a knock on the door and Hannah pokes her head around. You okay? She asks. I just stare at her. She frowns. I know you don't like me doing this, but can I make you some tea? I nod. Twining's English breakfast, weak and black? I nod. Coming right up, Anna. I stare blankly at my computer screen, still in shock. How can I make him understand? Email. From Anastasia Steele. Subject, not an asset. Date, August 22nd, 2011, 14:23. To Christian Gray. Mr. Gray, next time you come and see me, make an appointment so I can at least have some prior warning of your adolescent overbearing megalomania. Yours, Anastasia Gray. Please note name, editor, SIP. From Christian Gray. Subject, 7 Shades of Sunday. Date, August 22nd, 2011, 14:34. To Anastasia Steele. My dear Mrs. Gray. Emphasis on my. What can I say in my defense? I was in the neighborhood. And no, you are not an asset. You are my beloved wife. As ever, you make my day. Christian Gray, CEO and overbearing megalomaniac, Gray Enterprises Holdings, Inc. He's trying to be funny, but I am in no mood to laugh. I take a deep breath and go back to my correspondence. Christian is quiet when I climb into the car that evening. Hi, I murmur. Hi. He responds warily, as he should. Disrupt anyone else's work today? I ask too sweetly. A ghost of a smile crosses his face. Only Flynn's. Oh. Next time you go to see him, I'll give you a list of topics I want covered. I hiss. You seem out of sorts, Mrs. Gray. I glare steadily at the backs of Ryan's and Sawyer's heads in front of me. Christian shifts beside me. Hey, he says softly and reaches for my hand. All afternoon, when I should have been concentrating on work, I was trying to figure out what to say to him. But I became angrier and angrier with each passing hour. I've had enough of his cavalier, petulant, and frankly childish behavior. I snatch my hand out of his, in a cavalier, petulant, and childish manner. You're mad at me? He whispers. Yes, I hiss. Folding my arms protectively across my body, I gaze out my window. He shifts beside me once more. But I will not let myself look at him. I don't understand why I'm so mad at him, but I am. Really fucking mad. As soon as we pull up outside of Scala, I break protocol and leap out of the car with my briefcase. I stomp into the building, not checking to see who is following. Ryan scuttles into the foyer behind me and dashes to the elevator to press the call button. What? I snap when I'm alongside him. His cheeks redden. Apologies, ma'am, he mutters. Christian comes and stands beside me to wait for the elevator, and Ryan retreats. So it's not just me you're mad at, Christian murmurs dryly. I glare up at him and see a trace of a smile on his face. Are you laughing at me? I narrow my eyes. I wouldn't dare, he says, holding his hands up like I'm threatening him at gunpoint. He's in his navy suit, looking crisp and clean with floppy sex hair and a guileless expression. You need a haircut, I mutter. Turning away from him, I step into the elevator. Do I? He says while brushing his hair off his forehead. He follows me in. Yes. I tap the code for our apartment into the keypad. So you're talking to me now? Just. What exactly are you mad about? I need an indication. He asks cautiously. I turn and gape at him. Do you really have no idea? Surely, for someone so bright, you must have an inkling. I can't believe you're that obtuse. He takes an alarmed step back. You really are mad. I thought we had sorted all this in your office. He murmurs, perplexed. Christian, I just capitulated to your petulant demands. That's all. The elevator doors open and I storm out. Taylor is standing in the hallway. He takes a step back and quickly shuts his mouth as I steam past him. Hi, Taylor, I mutter. This is Gray, he murmurs. Dropping my briefcase in the hallway, I head into the great room. Mrs. Jones is at the stove. Good evening, Mrs. Gray. Hi, Mrs. Jones, I mutter. I head straight to the fridge and pull out a bottle of white wine. Christian follows me into the kitchen and watches me like a hawk as I take a glass down from the cupboard. He removes his jacket and casually places it on the countertop. Do you want to drink? I ask, super sweetly. No thanks, he says, not taking his eyes off me. And I know that he's helpless. He does not know what to do with me. It's comical on one level and tragic on another. Well, screw him. I am having trouble locating my compassionate self since our meeting this afternoon. Slowly, he removes his tie and then opens the top button of his shirt. I pour myself a large glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and Christian runs a hand through his hair. When I turn around, Mrs. Jones has disappeared. Shit, she's my human shield. I take a slug of wine. It tastes good. Stop this, Christian whispers. He takes the 2 steps between us, so he's standing in front of me. Gently, he tucks my hair behind my ear and caresses my earlobe with his fingertips, sending a shiver through me. Is this what I've missed all day? His touch? I shake my head, causing him to release my ear and gaze up at him. Talk to me, he murmurs. What's the point? You don't listen to me. Yes, I do. You are one of the few people I do listen to. I take another swig of wine. Is this about your name? Yes and no. It's about how you dealt with the fact that I disagreed with you. I glare up at him, expecting him to be angered. His brow furrows. Anna, you know I have issues. It's hard for me to let go where you're concerned. You know that. But I'm not a child, and I'm not an asset. I know. He sighs. Then stop treating me as though I am, I whisper, imploring him. He brushes the backs of his fingers down my cheek and runs the tip of his thumb across my bottom lip. Don't be mad. You're so precious to me. Like a priceless asset. Like a child. He whispers, a somber, reverent expression on his face. His words distract me. Like a child. Precious like a child. A child. Him. I'm neither of those things, Christian. I'm your wife. If you were hurt that I wasn't going to take your name, you should have said. Heard. He frowns deeply, and I know that he's exploring the possibility in his mind. He straightens suddenly, still frowning, and glances quickly at his wristwatch. The architect will be here in just under an hour. We should eat. Oh, no. I groan inwardly. He hasn't answered me, and now I have to deal with Gia Mateo. My shitty day just got shittier. I scowl at Christian. This discussion isn't finished, I mutter. What else is there to discuss? You could sell the company. Christian snorts. Sell it? Yes. You think I'd find a buyer in today's market? How much did it cost you? It was relatively cheap. His tone is guarded. If it folds, he smirks. We'll see. But I won't let it fold, Anastasia. Not while you're there. And if I leave? And do what? I don't know. Something else? You've already said this is your dream job. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I promised before God, Reverend Walsh, and a congregation of our nearest and dearest to cherish you, uphold your hopes and dreams, and keep you safe at my side. Quoting your wedding vows to me is not fair. I've never promised to play fair where you're concerned. Besides, he adds, you've wielded your vows at me like a weapon before. I scowl. This is true. Anastasia, if you're still angry with me, take it out on me in bed later. His voice is suddenly low and full of sensual longing. His eyes heated. What? Bed? How? He smiles indulgently down at my expression. Is he expecting me to tie him up? Holy crap. 7 shades of Sunday. He whispers, looking forward to it. Whoa! Gail, he shouts abruptly, and 4 seconds later, Mrs. Jones appears. Where was she? Taylor's office? Listening? Oh no. Mr. Gray? We'd like to eat now, please. Very good, sir. Christian doesn't take his eyes off me. He watches me vigilantly as if I'm some exotic creature about to bolt. I take a sip of my wine. I think I'll join you in a glass, he says, sighing, and runs a hand through his hair again. You are not going to finish? No. I gaze down at my barely touched plate of fettuccine to avoid Christian's darkening expression. Before he can say anything, I stand and clear our plates from the dining table. Gia will be with us shortly, I mutter. Christian's mouth twists with a scowl, but he says nothing. I'll take those, Mrs. Gray, says Mrs. Jones as I walk into the kitchen. Thank you. You didn't like it? She asks, concerned. It was fine. I'm just not hungry. Giving me a small, sympathetic smile, she turns to clear my plate and put everything in the dishwasher. I'm going to make a couple of calls, Christian announces, giving me an assessing look before he disappears into his study. I let out a sigh of relief and head to our bedroom. Dinner was awkward. I'm still mad at Christian, and he doesn't seem to think he's done anything wrong. Has he? My subconscious cocks an eyebrow at me and gazes benignly over her half-moon glasses. Yes, he has. He's made it even more awkward for me at work. He didn't wait to discuss this issue with me when we were in the relative privacy of our own home. How would he feel if I came barging into his office, laying down the law? And to cap it all, he me SIP. How the hell could I run a company? I know next to nothing about business. I gaze out at the Seattle skyline bathed in the pearly pink light of dusk, and, as usual, he wants to solve our differences in the bedroom. Foyer, playroom, TV room, kitchen countertop. Stop! It always comes back to sex with him. Sex is his coping mechanism. I wander into the bathroom and scowl at my reflection in the mirror. Coming back to the real world is hard. We managed to skate over all our differences while we were in our bubble because we were so wrapped up in each other. But now, briefly I am dragged back to my wedding, remembering my concerns that day. Marry in haste. No, I mustn't think like this. I knew he was 50 Shades when I married him. I just have to hang in there and try to talk this through with him. I squint at myself in the mirror. I look pale, and now I have that woman to deal with. I'm wearing my gray pencil skirt and a sleeveless blouse. Right. My inner goddess gets out her harlot red nail polish. I undo 2 buttons, exposing a little cleavage. I wash my face, then carefully redo my makeup, applying more mascara than usual, and putting extra gloss on my lips. Bending down, I brush my hair vigorously from root to tip. When I stand, my hair is a chestnut haze around me that tumbles to my breasts. I tuck it artfully behind my ears and go in search of my pumps rather than my flats. When I reemerge into the great room, Christian has a house plan spread out on the dining table. He has music playing through the sound system. It stops me in my tracks. Mrs. Gray, he says warmly, then looks quizzically at me. What's this? I ask. The music is stunning. Beauré's Requiem. You look different. he says, distracted. Oh, I've not heard it before. It's very calming, relaxing, he says, and raises an eyebrow. Have you done something to your hair? Brushed it, I mutter. I'm transported by the haunting voices. Abandoning the plans on the table, he walks toward me, a slow saunter in time to the music. Dance with me, he murmurs. To this? It's a requiem, I squeak, shocked. Yes. He pulls me into his arms and holds me, burying his nose in my hair and swaying gently from side to side. He smells his heavenly self. Oh, I've missed him. I wrap my arms around him and fight the urge to cry. Why are you so infuriating? I hate fighting with you, he whispers. Well, stop being such an arse. He chuckles and the captivating sound reverberates through his chest. He tightens his hold on me. Arse? Ass. I prefer arse. You should. It suits you. He laughs once more and kisses the top of my head. A requiem? I murmur, a little shocked that we are dancing to it. He shrugs. It's just a lovely piece of music, Anna. Taylor coughs discreetly in the entranceway, and Christian releases me. Miss Mateo is here, he says. Oh, joy. Show her in, Christian says. He reaches over and clasps my hand as Miss Gia Mateo enters the room. Chapter 8. Gia Mateo is a good-looking woman, a tall, good-looking woman. She wears her short, salon blonde, perfectly layered and coiffed hair like a sophisticated. She's dressed in a pale gray pantsuit. The slacks and fitted jacket hug her lush curves. Her clothes look expensive. At the base of her throat, a solitary diamond glints, matching the single-carat studs in her ears. She's well-groomed, one of those women who grew up with money and breeding, though her breeding seems to be lacking this evening. Her pig undone too far. Like mine, I flush. Christian, Anna. She beams, showing perfect white teeth, and holds out a manicured hand to shake first Christian's, then my hand. It means I have to release Christian's hand to reciprocate. She's a fraction shorter than Christian, but then she's in killer heels. Gia, Christian says politely. I smile coolly. You both look so well after your honeymoon, she says smoothly, her brown eyes gazing at Christian through long, mascaraed lashes. Christian puts his arm around me, holding me close. We had a wonderful time. Thank you. He brushes his lips against my temple, taking me by surprise. See? He's mine. Annoying, infuriating even, but mine. I grin. Right now, I really love you, Christian Grey. I slip my hand around his waist, then into his rear pocket of his pants and squeeze his behind. Gia gives us a thin smile. Have you managed to look over the plans? We have, I murmur. I gaze up at Christian, who grins down at me, one eyebrow raised in wry amusement. Amused at what? My reaction to Gia or my squeezing his butt? Please, Christian says. The plans are here. He gestures toward the dining table, following in our wake. I finally remember my manners. Would you like something to drink? I ask. A glass of wine? That would be lovely, Gia says. Dry white if you have it. Shit, Sauvignon Blanc. It's a dry white, isn't it? Reluctantly leaving my husband's side, I head over to the kitchen. I hear the iPod hiss as Christian switches off the music. Would you like some more wine, Christian? I call. Please, baby. He croons, grinning at me. Wow, you can be so swoon-worthy at times, yet so aggravating at others. Reaching up to open the cupboard, I'm aware his eyes are on me, and I'm gripped by the uncanny feeling that Christian and I are putting on a show, playing a game together, but this time we're on the same side, pitted against Ms. Mateo. Does he know that she's attracted to him and is being too obvious about it? It gives me a small rush of pleasure when I realize maybe he's trying to reassure me. Or maybe he's just sending a message loud and clear to this woman that he's taken. Mine. Yeah, bitch, mine. My inner goddess is wearing her gladiatrix outfit, and she's taking no myself. I collect 3 glasses from the cupboard, the opened bottle of Sauvignon Blanc from the fridge, and place them all on the breakfast bar. Gia is leaning over the table while Christian stands beside her and points to something on the hands. I think Anna has some opinions on the glass wall, but generally we're both pleased with the ideas you've come up with. Oh, I'm glad, Gia gushes, obviously relieved. And as she says it, she briefly touches his arm in a small, flirty gesture. Christian stiffens immediately, but subtly. She doesn't even seem to notice. Leave him the fuck alone, lady. He doesn't like to be touched. Stepping casually aside so he's out of her reach, Christian turns to me. Thirsty here, he says. Coming right up. He is playing the game. She makes him uncomfortable. Why didn't I see that before? That's why I don't like her. He's used to how women react to him. I've seen it often enough, and usually he thinks nothing of it. Touching is something else. Well, Mrs. Gray to the rescue. Hastily pour the wine, gather all 3 glasses in my hands, and hurry back to my night in distress. Offering a glass to Gia, I deliberately position myself between them. She smiles courteously as she accepts it. I hand the second to Christian, who takes it eagerly, his expression one of amused gratitude. Cheers, Christian says to us both, but looking at me. Gia and I raise our glasses and answer in unison. I take a welcome sip of wine. Anna, you have some issues with the glass wall? Gia asks. Yes, I love it, don't get me wrong, but I was hoping that we could incorporate it more organically into the house. After all, I fell in love with the house as it was, and I don't want to make any radical changes. I see. I just want the design to be sympathetic, you know? More in keeping with the original house. I glance up at Christian, who is gazing at me thoughtfully. No major renovations, he murmurs. No, I shake my head to emphasize my point. You like it as it is? Mostly, yes. I always knew it just needed some TLC. Christian's eyes glow warmly. Gia glances at the pair of us, and her cheeks pink. Okay, she says. I think I get where you're coming from, Anna. How about if we retain the glass wall, but have it open out onto a larger deck that's in Mediterranean style? We have the stone terrace there already. We can put in pillars and matching stone, widely spaced so you'll still have the view. Add a glass roof, or tile it as per the rest of the house. It'll also make a sheltered dining and seating area. Got to give the woman her due. She's good. Or, instead of the deck, we could incorporate the color of your choice into the glass doors. That might help to keep the Mediterranean spirit. She continues. Like the bright blue shutters in the south of France, I murmur to Christian. Shoot me down, or make me feel. God, this man is a mess of contradictions. His words from yesterday come to mind. I want this house to be the way you want, whatever you want. It's yours. He wants me to be happy. Happy in everything I do. Deep down, I think I know this. It's just... I stop myself. Don't think about our argument now. My subconscious glares at me. Gia is looking at Christian, waiting for him to make the decision. I watch as her pupils dilate and her glossed lips part. Her tongue darts quickly over her top lip before she takes a sip of her wine. When I turn to Christian, he's still looking at me, not at her at all. Yes, I am going to have words with Miss Mateo. Anna, what do you want to do? Christian murmurs, very clearly deferring to me. I like the deck idea. Me too. I turn back to Gia. Hey lady, look at me, not him. I'm the one making the decisions on this. I think I'd like to see revised drawings showing the bigger deck and pillars that are in keeping with the house. Reluctantly, Gia drags her greedy eyes away from my husband and smiles down at me. Does she think I'm not going to notice? Sure, she acquiesces pleasantly. Any other issues? Other than you fucking my husband? Christian wants to remodel the master suite, I murmur. There's a discreet cough from the entrance to the great room. We three turn as one to find Taylor standing there. Taylor? Christian asks. I need to confer with you on an urgent matter, Mr. Gray. Christian clasps my shoulders from behind and addresses Gia. Mrs. Gray is in charge of this project. She has absolute carte blanche. Whatever she wants, it's hers. I completely trust her instincts. She is very shrewd. His voice alters subtly. In it, I hear pride and a veiled warning. A warning to Gia? He trusts my instincts? Oh, this man's exasperating. My instincts let him run roughshod over my feelings this afternoon. I shake my head in frustration, but I'm grateful that he's telling Miss Provocative and unfortunately good at her job just who's in charge. I caress his hand as it rests on my shoulder. If you'll excuse me. Christian squeezes my shoulders before following Taylor. I wonder idly what's going on. So, the master suite? Gia asks nervously. I gaze up at her, pausing for a moment to ensure that Christian and Taylor are out of earshot. Then, calling on all my inner strength and the fact that I've been seriously peaked for the last 5 hours, I let her have it. You're right to be nervous, Gia, because right now your work on this project hangs in the balance. But I'm sure we'll be fine as long as you keep your hands off my husband. She gasps. Otherwise, you're fired. Understand? I enunciate each word clearly. She blinks rapidly, utterly stunned. She cannot believe what I've said. I cannot believe what I've just said. But I hold my ground, gazing impassively into her widening brown eyes. Don't back down. Don't back down. I've learned this maddening impassive expression from Christian, who does impassive like no one else. I know that renovating the Gray's main residence is a prestigious project for Gia's architectural firm, a resplendent feather in her cap. She can't lose this commission. And right now, I don't give a hoot that she's Elliot's friend. Anna, Mrs. Gray, I'm so sorry. I never... She flushes, unsure what else she can say. Let me be clear. My husband is not interested in you. Of course, she murmurs, the blood draining from her face. As I said, I just wanted to be clear. Mrs. Gray, I sincerely apologize if you think I have... She stops, still floundering for something to say. Good. As long as we understand each other, we'll be fine. Now, I'll let you know what we have in mind for the master suite. Then I'd like a rundown on all the materials you intend to use. As you know, Christian and I are determined that this house should be ecologically sustainable, and I'd like to reassure him as to where all the materials are coming from and what they are. Of course, she stutters, wide-eyed and frankly a little intimidated by me. This is a first. My inner goddess runs around the arena, waving to the frenzied crowd. Gia pats her hair into place, and I realize this is a nervous gesture. The master suite? She prompts anxiously, her voice a breathless whisper. Now that I have the upper hand, I feel myself relax for the first time since my meeting with Christian this afternoon. I can do this. My inner goddess is celebrating her inner bitch. Christian joins us just as we're finishing up. All done? He asks. He puts his arm around my waist and turns to Gia. Yes, Mr. Gray. Gia smiles brightly, though her smile looks brittle. I'll have the revised plans to you in a couple of days. Excellent. You're happy? He asks me directly, his eyes warm and probing. I nod and blush for some reason that I don't understand. I'd better be going, Gia says, again too brightly. She offers her hand to me first this time, then to Christian. Until next time, Gia, I murmur. Yes, Mrs. Gray, Mr. Gray. Taylor appears at the entrance of the great room. Taylor will see you out. My voice is loud enough for him to hear. Patting her hair once more, she turns on her high heels and leaves the great room, followed closely by Taylor. She was noticeably cooler, Christian says, looking quizzically at me. Was she? I didn't notice. I shrug, trying to remain neutral. What did Taylor want? I ask, partly because I'm curious, and partly because I want to change the subject. Frowning, Christian releases me and begins to roll up the plans on the table. It was about Hyde. What about Hyde? I whisper. It's nothing to worry about, Anna. Abandoning the plans, Christian draws me into his arms. It turns out he hasn't been in his apartment for weeks, that's all. He kisses my hair, then releases me and finishes his task. So, what did you decide on? He asks, and I know it's because he doesn't want me to pursue the Hyde line of inquiry. Only what you and I discussed. I think she likes you, I say quietly. He snorts. Did you say something to her? He asks, and I flush. How does he know? At a loss what to say, I stare down at my fingers. We were Christian and Anna when she arrived, and Mr. and Mrs. Gray when she left. His tone is dry. I may have said something, I mumble. When I peek up at him, he's regarding me warmly, and for an unguarded moment he looks pleased. He drops his gaze, shaking his head, and his expression changes. She's only reacting to this face. He sounds vaguely bitter, disgusted even. Oh, 50, no. What? He's bemused by my perplexed expression. His eyes grow wide in alarm. You're not jealous, are you? He asks, horrified. I blush and swallow, then stare down at my knotted fingers. Am I? Anna, she's a sexual predator, not my type at all. How can you be jealous of her? Of anyone? Nothing about her interests me. When I glance up, he's gaping at me as if I've grown an additional limb. He runs a hand through his hair. It's only you, Anna, he says quietly. It will only ever be you. Oh my. Abandoning the plans once more, Christian moves toward me and clasps my chin between his thumb and forefinger. How can you think otherwise? Have I ever given you any indication that I could be remotely interested in anyone else? His eyes blaze as he stares into mine. No, I whisper. I'm being silly. It's just, today, all my conflicting emotions from earlier resurface. How can I tell him how confused I am? I've been confounded and frustrated by his behavior this afternoon in my office. One minute he wants me to stay home. The next, he's gifting me a company. How am I supposed to keep up? What about me? Oh, Christian. My bottom lip trembles. I'm trying to adapt to this new life that I had never imagined for myself. Everything is being handed to me on a plate. The job, you, my beautiful husband, who I never knew I'd love this way. This hard, this fast, this indelibly. I take a deep, steadying breath as his mouth drops open. But you're like a freight train, and I don't want to get railroaded because the girl you fell in love with will be crushed. And what'll be left? All that would be left is a vacuous social x-ray, flitting from charity function to charity function. I pause once more, struggling to find the words to convey how I feel. And now, you want me to be a company CEO, which has never even been on my radar. I'm bouncing between all these ideas, struggling. You want me at home. You want me to run a company. It's so confusing. I stop, tears threatening, and I force back a sob. You've got to let me make my own decisions, take my own risks, and make my own mistakes, and let me learn from them. I need to walk before I can run, Christian. Don't you see? I want some independence. That's what my name means to me. There. That's what I wanted to say this afternoon. You feel railroaded? He whispers. I nod. He closes his eyes, agitated. I just want to give you the world, Anna. Everything and anything you want. And save you from it, too. Keep you safe. But I also want everyone to know you're mine. I panicked today when I got your email. Why didn't you tell me about your name? I flush. He has a point. I only thought about it while we were on our honeymoon, and, well, I didn't want to burst the bubble. And I forgot about it. I only remembered yesterday evening, and then Jack. You know, it was distracting. I'm sorry. I should have told you or discussed it with you, but I could never seem to find the right time. Christian's intense gaze is unnerving. It's as if he's trying to will his way into my skull, but he says nothing. Why did you panic? I ask. I just don't want you to slip through my fingers. For heaven's sake, I'm not going anywhere. When are you going to get that through your incredibly thick skull? I love you. I wave my hand in the air like he does sometimes to emphasize my point. More than eyesight, space, or liberty. His eyes widen. Daughter's love? He gives me an ironic smile. No! I laugh despite myself. It's the only quote that came to mind. Mad King Lear. Dear, dear Mad Horse. Repeating the words we that much to you. Oh, man. Does it mean that much to you? Yes. He is unequivocal. Okay. I will do this for him. Give him the reassurance he still needs. You'd already agreed to this. Yes, I have. But now that we've discussed it further, I'm happier with my decision. Oh, he mutters, surprised. Then he smiles his beautiful, boyish, yes, I am really kinda young, smile, and he takes my breath away. Grabbing me by the waist, he swings me around. I squeal and start to giggle, and I don't know if he's just happy, or relieved, or what. Mrs. Gray, do you know what this means to me? I do now. He leans down and kisses me, his fingers moving into my hair, holding me in place. It means 7 shades of Sunday. He murmurs against my lips, and he runs his nose along mine. You think? I lean back to gaze at him. Certain promises were made, an offer extended, a deal brokered. He whispers, his eyes sparkling with wicked delight. I am still reeling, trying to follow his mood. You reneging on me? He asks uncertainly, and a speculative look crosses his face. I have an idea. He adds, "Oh, what kinky fuckery is this? A really important matter to attend to." He continues, suddenly all serious once more. "Yes, Mrs. Gray, a matter of the gravest importance." Hang on, he's laughing at me. What? I breathe. "I need you to cut my hair. Apparently it's overlong and my wife doesn't like it." "I can't cut your hair." "Yes, you can." Christian grins and shakes his head so his overlong hair covers his eyes. "Well, if Mrs. Jones has a pudding bowl," I giggle. He laughs. "Okay, good point, well made. I'll get Franco to do it." "No! Franco works for the bitch troll. Maybe I could give him a trim. After all, I cut Ray's hair for years, and he never complained." "Come." I grab his hand. His eyes widen. I lead him all the way to our bathroom, where I release him and grab the white wooden chair that stands in the corner. I place it in front of the sink. When I look at Christian, he's gazing at me with ill-disguised amusement, thumbs tucked into the front belt loops of his pants, but his eyes are smoking hot. "Sit." I gesture to the empty chair, trying to maintain the upper hand. "Are you going to wash my hair?" I nod. He arches one brow in surprise, and for a moment, I think he's going to back down. "Okay." Slowly, he begins to undo each button of his white shirt, starting with the one beneath his throat. Nimble, deft fingers move to each button in turn until his shirt hangs open. Oh my. My inner goddess pauses in her celebratory jaunt around the arena. Christian holds out a cup with an "undo this now" gesture, and his mouth twitches in that challenging, sexy way he has. Oh, cufflinks. I take his proffered wrist and remove the first one, a platinum disc with his initials engraved in a simple italic script, and then remove its matching twin. As I finish, I glance at him, and his amused expression is gone, replaced by something hotter, much hotter. I reach up and push his shirt off his shoulders, letting it fall to the floor. "Ready?" I whisper. "Or whatever you want." My eyes stray from his eyes to his lips, parted so that he can inhale more deeply. Sculptured, chiseled, whatever. It is a beautiful mouth, and he knows exactly what to do with it. I find myself leaning up to kiss him. "No," he says, and places both of his hands on my shoulders. "Don't. If you do that, I'll never get my hair cut." "Oh, I want this. I want this," he continues, and his eyes are round and raw for some inexplicable reason. It's disarming. "Why?" I whisper. He stares at me for a beat, and his eyes grow wider. "Because it'll make me feel cherished." My